Hey everyone, if I can hit the right button. I couldn't hit the right button. Oh, hello, I'm Dragon. Hope you're still here. Miss T. Hi, Ty. Delilah. Macaulay Connor. Hello. Lisa Morris. Hello. Misha. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Hey, Kendall.
Hey.
You doing all right?
I'm good. I'm sorry. I was reading another message that come in. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm trying to stuff my face, and I've got my phone's blowing up with everything. There's been a can of worms open. I don't know.
Sounds like it. I'm sitting here reading another one now that I didn't even know I had.
Hey, would you bitch? Y'all, I never do this and eat while I'm live, and I'm sorry, but I'm starving and I'm eating. And I think it's rude.
Shame on you.
Hey, S.L. Conway, hadn't seen you in a while.
I'm trying to get to where on the laptop where I can see.
Okay, S.L. Conway. So the chromosome disorder, there is some truth to this, but it is not the end all be all of the case and dismisses everything else. And we're going to talk about something else tonight, and not so much that, but we are going to be coming back with more of that. There's our favorite villain. We figured you were super busy today.
There she is. I asked Brandy, I was like, have you even talked to her?
Ty says, can of worms or snakes? Oh, absolutely snakes.
Both. We got some worms moving and some snakes slithering.
Big time. So, for those that aren't aware, I'm sure y'all have heard. Is my sound good, guys? Because I don't have my mic right up next to me. Y'all have heard Miss April, aka Fancy Pants, hollering and crying and woohooing and all of those things because Kendal was mean and Kendal did the right thing. And Kendal didn't finish that right thing, and somebody still got in trouble. Damn. Sucks when you do unethical shit.
Excuse me. Yeah, there's some people not happy with me.
She snuck in on us. She told me she was changing her name and she didn't do it.
There she is.
She was going to change her name to be something. It was funny.
I missed all the drama. What happened this time?
Oh, look. How about you just do the right thing? Tough concept, LOL. Right? It's a hard thing to do sometimes.
I struggled with that decision.
So let's start there. I'm going to let Kendal explain to y'all what happened and what is going on. And then she can go into her story of why she went where she went.
Just throw me out on the plank and make me jump off.
Why not? I'm not about ripping the Band-Aid off. Let's not do the slow shit. Let's just all in, you know.
I'm trying to read comments, but I left my glasses at the tiny house. So I'm having to squint. Okay, so for those that don't know, which I'm sure most do by now, I'm the one that reported Colleen to the state board. It was not an easy decision to make. It was not a hasty decision. In fact, I talked about it for weeks before I actually did it, because I never sent her, text messages or try to contact with or any kind of contact with her. But I do know that other people tried to say, quit, Johnny, wake up. This is wrong. What you're doing. It's wrong. Might not be against HIPAA laws, but it's wrong. And I read some of those text messages that people sent because, of course, Fancy's got to capitalize on them and post them. And she does that because she, wants to prove to her followers that there's intimidation and she's being harassed and all that, which I think a lot of people that reached out to Colleen, some of the wording, I would have worded some of the stuff differently.
I will say some of those did come across that way.
Right. I agree. I don't like how someone was worded because it did come across as a threat.
And one of the things that Fancy doesn't have any proof on is the conversation on the phone that Tori and I had with Colleen, where we told her, you are going to get in trouble. This is not cool. You're being used. And she said she didn't know how to get out of it without all hell breaking loose. And she was the only one left. And she didn't want to lose her work. And she had some serious things going on in her family with one of her children. And I told her I would absolutely use that and get out, because at the rate it's going, your license is in jeopardy. Right. If people want to complain, Colleen, if people want to go there because you've plastered, both of you have plastered where you work and all of that all over the internet, and people are not nice. And I'm trying to protect you and save you here. And she didn't tell Fancy all of that conversation. She just gave her the screenshots where it looked like we were threatening her.
Well, of course not.
And she, she tells her that, she told me that she went and told her those things because she wanted to know if it was true. Well, why don't you ask somebody in professional capacity, like your boss?
Yeah, like your employer.
An attorney.
Or another registered nurse that's your equal, because Fancy's not your equal.
Right. And some of ours was on the business aspect of it, and the rest of it was on her license. I was concerned for her losing her license.
Right. And I never wanted her to lose her license or her job. No matter what Fancy says or tries to twist anything, my goal was never for her to lose her license or her job. It wasn't. I wanted her to have a wake-up call of what you're doing is wrong. It's wrong. You're trying to take one situation that at first I did not believe was even true, but I had someone reach out to me that is a very credible source on the information, the medical information. And she said, I'm not going to speak on it, but yes, I will tell you that the document is real. So immediately I removed that video. And I left that part alone because the paper to me didn't look real. 3 different font types, and you know what I'm saying? It just didn't look real.
Right.
So, but when I found out that it was from a credible source, then I had to think, okay, why are they taking this disorder that absolutely answers a lot of questions, but it also raises more questions than it answers? You're wanting it to answer everything, and you're wanting to put it in a little bitty box, and you're wanting to say, I knew it. I knew there was a piece of this. We're missing something, and this is it. And now we have all the answers. And Gypsy did not suffer abuse, and she didn't suffer medical abuse, and had the nerve to say Dee Dee was just a mother doing what was best for her child. That was it for me. That was it for me. And then you have, and I always did find it curious that I think Colleen is obviously a very highly educated woman, right? I don't know so much about common sense, or maybe it ain't even common sense. Maybe it's personal strength,
very
to
gullible,
stand your ground kind of stuff, make your own decisions, and that type of stuff. And I don't mean that mean in any way. There's just some people stronger than others.
I think she's very gullible.
I don't even know where to know if it is gullible. I just, like, I don't know. I'm not going to go there because I'm really trying to keep this nice. I just feel like sometimes of what I've been told, what I've personally seen, that she could have been stronger enough to say, no matter what, my family, my career, and everything's going to come first. And if I can find out from someone that is credible, not me, not you, not fancy, not even, I mean, somebody in the field that's got some letters behind their name
And
that,
not
hey, this
connected
is
in
what
any
I'm
way.
doing. I am breaking down medical documents that was not personally given to me by the patient herself. And then I'm going to try to take it and make it answer everything. And then I'm going to put it behind a paywall, and I'm going to humiliate this patient. And I'm not even going to ask the patient's permission after I break down the medical records. I'm just going to throw it. I'm just going to throw it over here to my mouthpiece, and then she's going to pack it in a little box and make it answer all the questions. Why not go to someone to ask that question and say, hey, is that okay?
Is this within my ethical duties, and am I going to be crossing lines if I do this, and where are my boundaries, and those kinds of things from somebody that could actually protect your ass.
Right. And to me, sometimes too, that it's not just always about what is going to get her in trouble with the board, but what looks bad on you.
Mm-hmm.
Girl, you've worked hard. I know. I went to LPN school, and I quit 6 weeks before I graduated because I got pregnant with Amber, and I moved out of state because I was married and he got transferred and I had to go. So I just LPN school was hard. The education that she's got, she's has to be intelligent, and she's got to be dedicated, and you've worked hard, and you're going to lay all of that in someone who thinks, and I really know that Fancy believes she knows, but you're going to lay all of that into her hands, and you're going to let her guide you. And then what if she's wrong? Because we've seen many times that she's wrong. And what if she's wrong? What is she? I'm so sorry. Well, she's lost what she's worked for. Fancy, just keep on. She's not going to stop. So it's like there were so many warnings that went out. I never reached out to her personally. I made my videos like I normally do. The only one that I regret is the one where, and I have a reason why I posted it, is I had people reaching out to me. At that time, I was the one that was doing the satires and the funny videos, and I was getting so many messages about, oh, do this, like do an American Idol one, and do, what is that? Somebody suggested that show where they stand up and say, who is the real? You remember that show?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I forget the name of it, but they wanted me to do one of those in a
I
mock
still
way.
would like an American Idol one. I still would like an American Idol.
Right. And there were, I had so many of those coming in, but along with those, I had people sending me DMs. I would wake up every morning with 99 plus of DMs and people leaving messages. I mean, like every morning. And I would just scroll through them, and I tried to comment to everybody or like everybody. And then it got so overwhelming there for a while that I don't know how big creators do it, because I'm a very small content creator. I don't even call myself a content creator. I mean, it's so little. And I had a hard time every morning just making sure I was responding to everybody in some way, shape, or form. And I was getting messages that was like, because this was right around the time that I thought the document was fake. Okay. And people were coming in, they were pointing out things in the document, and they were like, and she's doing this, and now they're going to go and put it behind a paywall, and this happened, and she said on a tape live, and she said this, and she said that, and I'm going to contact the board. I'm going to contact the board. I'm going to contact the board. And some of these people, though, I will say, a handful of them would have given a truthful summary of what, in their opinion, they thought was wrong. Then there was another group that I knew was going to throw everything but the kitchen sink in that mess of a letter, and it was going to be inaccurate. One, it was going to look like internet drama. It was going to just look like a bunch of hogwash. And it's nothing against those people. It's just that was their goal, is I want to hurt someone, not accomplish a goal. I just want to hurt, and there's those people, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I tried my best to talk to several people and say, hey, let me handle it. And it just kept on. So then I just got fed up. And I went and got everything. And I blurred her children's face out, because no matter what, I'm not messing with someone's children. Even when I posted a video with Fancy and she called her adult child's name, I beeped it out. I'm not messing with no one's children and or anything like that, or showing their face. So when I put it up, I blurred out everything to do with the baby or the children. I don't know if it was one or two or different ages. Excuse me. And what's so unfortunate? What am I missing? Oh, okay. So I went ahead and I posted the link and said, here's the link. If you want to do it, do it. Here's the link. So that was really directed at about 4 different people. And then I put on the comment section before I, loaded it, that please, if you're going to do this, do it truthfully and do it accurately. And whatever they did with it, they did. As far as I know, and I think they would have told me, as far as I know, no one actually did it. I think they just wanted it as because there was so many people reposted it. And I think it was just, I don't know, some people probably posted it as a warning, like, just stop, just stop. You can have your summary of what you think you see. And even what you see, a lot of us, including myself, believe that the disorder is real, but you packing it into the way you're packing it, and you're leaving out everything else because this one document answers everything, is wrong. And then humiliating a person. And I know a lot of people, I said this the other day, that a lot of people is going to say that Gypsy doesn't deserve no respect. This isn't about Gypsy. Take the name Gypsy out and put patient. Because if we don't hold our medical professionals to the same standards that we hold our police officers and our judges and our doctors and all of that, all of those people, we don't hold them to a certain level, what happens? Right? I don't care what Fancy says. Fancy is a YouTube yapper. I'm a TikTok yapper. It's like we don't have, though I believe we do hold a certain amount of responsibility when we take on certain subjects. When you're a medical professional and in this situation where you are growing hate, it's literally what you're doing. You're taking your research and your dedication of breaking down these medical records and you're handing it over to someone that is going to package it for hate. And you're going to make that, it's not a good enough that most of America hates Gypsy, right? That they already hate her. But the few that's still there supporting her or has some doubts or has some questions, let's get them too. Because Fancy was never going to be happy until there was complete hate. And that they were going to think that there was, that she was always a part of it. It was a scam. And like when Fancy said those words, that Dee Dee was just a mother trying to do what was best for her kid or her child. I think she said kid. Was she a scammer? Yes, she was. She comes from a family or scammer. What are you talking about? Like, I understand what you're trying to bring forth and make people believe, and a lot of it's true. You can believe that. But you're leaving out all this other stuff over here that's got to do with real abuse. And I'm sorry, but your little record about the chromosome disorder, that once again, let me say, yes, 100%, I believe she has. And I even worse believe that Dee Dee knew about it. I believe that when she got the chromosome thing, and that she probably Googled it and found out everything she could find out, and then she would take those symptoms and then run back to Gypsy, and this is what they were going to do. She knew what she had to do. And even before, when she would say, let's say that let's just say that none of it was fake, right? Let's say that Dee Dee didn't make up anything, that she was seeing little things wrong with Gypsy, whether it be the eyesight or the teeth or the ears. anything like that she was seeing certain things. You're telling me that she went through all of those procedures for those things? That don't make sense to me.
Well, I mean, it
Like,
doesn't take away from the fact that she was telling people early on that Gypsy had leukemia, Gypsy had muscular dystrophy. She told people early on Gypsy had all of those things and forced her into a wheelchair at a very young age. That doesn't take away from that.
right. And Fancy can't get it through her head that if I'm against her, I must be a Gypsy supporter. And I will stand on the mountaintop and scream, hell no, I am not. I am absolutely not a Gypsy supporter. Does not change the fact of what she went through as a kid under I just get so wrapped up in my mind because I get so aggravated. You cannot take part of the story away just because it don't fit in your box. She tried to sit the other day. Somebody sent me a video and it was talking about, huh?
I like what Delilah says here. And for what? Because she's bitter as fuck. This was a child.
Right. But somebody had sent me a video the other day and it was her screaming, what kid don't want to go to school? She had it made. What? I had 2 kids. One, I had to pull him out of bed and force him to school. I had another one that would cry if she had to miss a day. It depends on the kid themselves. Mm-hmm. So I drowned myself in school. School was my escape from my mother. And it was where I made really good grades and I thrived at school. And I made those good grades, not because I was intelligent, because I found out quick that good grades meant the teachers gave you that pat on the back. They would give you that what I needed from home. And that by making good grades and being at the top of the class, I got recognition from teachers. And I thrived on that. I thrived on the teachers saying that here's the ones that made the hundreds today. And it was my safe place. And it was where I found compassion from teachers all along the way, even up to high school. I always had a teacher somewhere that was, I'll never forget them. Right? I could see them today if they were still alive, and memories would come back. And I always had that from school. That was my safe place. And you're telling me that this kid gladly sat in a wheelchair, threw her life away for a couple of rides on a boat in Walt Disney World and a couple of thousand from a star here and there, and the attention she wanted this. And again, I do not support who Gypsy is by no means of who she is today. And I think who she is today is because she has not gotten the intense therapy that she needs to make responsible decisions.
Hey, everybody coming in that I have not said hello to, thank you for joining us and supporting Kendal tonight. Appreciate you guys.
So I can't say chat, so I'm just going to talk.
Okay. So let's
read stuff if it's something that.
Let's go into why this is so important to you.
Okay, so.
Because if we go down the rabbit hole of all Gypsy, then we're going to have the whole, they're Gypsy supporters and Gypsy this and Gypsy that. And this really is not about Gypsy.
No, it's not about Gypsy, but how I relate to Gypsy and why I think that no matter how much they want that chromosome disorder to answer every question, it absolutely does not. So let's just get into it, I guess. Those that didn't see my part 1 and my part 2 is I grew up.
Real quick. Hey, mods, no bullshit tonight. If they want to be stupid, mute. They're not going to be disrespectful to Kendal tonight while she's doing this because this is very hard for her to do. So I tend to be a lot more lax than that, but I ain't putting up with shit tonight.
Okay, I was able to pull. I was able to pull chat up for a minute. It'll go black here in a minute. Thanks, JoJo. I appreciate it.
Yes, Mama Dukes, you get to play.
I love her. So I grew up with a mom who, like I said in my video the other day, and I didn't even mean when I made that video, I didn't even mean to go into that. It just kind of happened. It wasn't a plan. It just kind of happened. But I grew up with a mother that, for as long as I can remember, was an addict, and she was a very hidden addict. Like, my parents were together, but my dad worked at the mines, and he would go to work around, or the coal mines. He would go to work around noon, 1 o'clock during the day while I was at school, and he would get home about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning when everyone was asleep. So I had most evenings alone with my mother. And for years, she was able to hide her addiction to what she called her medicine, which now as an adult, I know that, it was pain pills, but she was able to hide it for many years. My dad caught on to her, and he started controlling money. My mother still, she had a decent car. She was able to get her hair done every other Wednesday. She still was not doing without anything. My dad very much made sure she had what she needed. So when I say control the money, she was not doing without anything. She just no longer had access to the bank account. And I don't know much about that part of it. As far as when that happened, when he took over the money, and or even, I don't even know actually the whole story of why he took over the money. I just knew it had happened. I don't know what episode caused it to happen, or if it was a slow build up, or just how naive my dad was to drugs, because my dad never touched it, and it's just the way it was. And but for as long as I can remember, my mother was what we would call now a pillhead, and she was June Cleaver if she had her pills. And when I mean there was such a difference of an angry woman to someone that would sit down. I'm very creative, and I love to draw and create stuff. And she would sit down, and when she had her pills, let me back up a little bit. When she did her pills, she was not droopy eyed and drooling and falling asleep. She was just happy. She was just normal. And so I always wanted her to be happy, because that meant I had a mom. I didn't realize that in my early years, but I started realizing as I got a little bit older that if she got her medicine, I got a happy mom. So I can remember, I told this the other day, and I'll tell it again because I don't know who had heard it and who hasn't, but I remember being old enough to remember, 4, 5, 6 years old, and going into stores, and she would get the stroller out of the back, and me old enough to remember and say, I don't need this stroller. I'm a big kid. And
wait, you were forced to be in a stroller when you didn't need a stroller?
Yeah, because it was a way to hide stuff. Okay. And she would hide stuff, and then there become this routine of we would go in stores, and she would hide stuff, and then we would go to certain houses, and she would go in, and she'd be all upset and grumpy and just ill and snappy, and she would go in these people's houses, and she would stay in there 15, 20 minutes, and by the time she'd get back out to the car, she would be a mom again. She would just be normal. And so as I grew up with that, and I could tell some horror stories from those years, but some things I just don't even want to open. As I started getting older, let's say 9, 10, somewhere around in there, I remember her figuring out that we could get her medicine at the ERs. And she did a multitude of things that we would go into the ERs, and she would do. She had got the diabetic thing that you stick your finger with.
Uh-huh.
And I'm just a kid. I don't want to stick my finger. And there would be this crying episode. I'd rather have a shot today rather than stick my finger. There would be this crying thing of, I don't want to stick my finger. And I remember her when I was younger going in the bathroom with me, you got to pee in this cup, and getting mad and like jerking my hand over and doing my finger and making it, squeezing a drop into the urine cup because I was there, because I was having, she always would make me say it was my left side, never my right side, always my left side. I found out years later as I started getting older and I was more involved in her going to the store, like or not store, but into the ER. And this is why I say that I believe the grooming years of Gypsy, where people think Gypsy could have just stood up and told those doctors. You don't understand the power that grooming causes when you've grown up with a mother that has groomed you to be her partner in crime.
Right.
And that's what I was. And my goal was to keep mom happy. Keep mom happy. I don't know what Gypsy's goal was to go along with her mom. I know the hate group's going to say, well, she wanted that Disney World trip. That is so idiotic to even think that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I remember going into the ER and being young enough that they questioned whether or not it would be, I don't know, maybe it's a kidney infection, maybe it's a kidney stone. They would do CAT scans. I got up to close to 80 CAT scans by the time I was 16. I ended up having breast cancer in 2021, and you cannot convince me that it was not because of what I went through as a child. You just will not convince me with that much radiation. It wasn't connected. Can't prove it, but you won't convince me any different. So we'd go into the bathroom, and she would, if I learned to poke my finger myself, but in the beginning, she would jerk my hand over and she would poke my finger, or she would poke her finger and put a drop of blood in there. And we'd wait for the doctor to come back. The doctors come back. And now you're talking in the late 70s, early 80s, where pain pills were not regulated like they are now. And they'd come in and say, oh, it must be a kidney stone. I don't see one on the CAT scan, but I bet you've already passed it. Or, it was a kidney stone. And they would write me some pain pills. And we wonder why a generation is addicted. And then I did good. If I acted well enough, and I got good at it because I knew the quicker we got in there, the quicker we got out, the quicker I could get home. And the quicker mom would be happy. That if I got in there and acted really, really good, that I was in pain and this is really hurting, and we'd get the pain pills, then mother would get them, and then I would get the same gratification from my mother that I'd get from my teachers if I was doing good. She was proud of me. She was proud of me. She was happy. Dinner would get cooked that night, and she would be in a good mood when my dad would get home, and then life was good. But there was so many of those things that happened from as long as I can remember up until I was, I want to say 13 or 14, but I remember specifically a car situation. So I want to say at least 13 or 14, that if I didn't do it, she would say, I'll get you this if you'll do this. And I couldn't say no, because if I said no, life was miserable. So there was no option of me saying, I don't want that. Just don't worry about it. Forget about it. I don't want that. And her saying, okay, well, we won't go, because the word no was not an option. It was just her trying to bribe me into do it. And there was something that I seen on one of Gypsy's things that Gypsy had said. And I know we can't believe a lot that she says, but there's certain things that radiates truth with me, just because I lived a similar, not nowhere near what she did, but similar parallel of what the feeling of grooming.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing people need to understand. Grooming, when we say a child's being groomed, most of the time people automatically think it's supposed to be sexual. And that's not the only type of grooming that happens. And so people need to remove the sexual part out of the grooming term as the only type of grooming. And that, sorry, that's Molly, the special needs little brat behind me because somebody bought her blanket. So when we say grooming, there's many forms of grooming. It's not all sexual, and we have to remove that part out of it. And let's
Yeah,
face it,
she would build me up. She would literally build me up to. She would put guilt trips on me and say, I need my medicine so bad. I need my medicine. And I wished I knew who she was calling. I knew whose houses we went to, but I knew certain names. Like I knew the name Billy, but I don't know who Billy is. I just know we got to go see Billy today. And I knew Billy meant that if she said we got to see Billy today, that automatically registered with me that, oh my God, we're going in a store and I'm going to have to pretend to hop on crutches, or I'm going to have to pretend. One thing she'd make me do is sit in the back of the buggy and pretend like I was really nauseated with my head down. And she would say, just pretend like you're nauseated. And she would put stuff like, I'd have my knees up and kind of my hands over my knees. So if there was an object that she needed that was bigger, she could kind of put like between my knees. If I'm sitting on my butt with my knees pulled up, she had that little triangle right there to stick things under my knees. And she had called this man one day, and y'all are not going to believe this. And I promise this is so true. We went into what we have in Alabama and Tennessee called Tractor Supply. And it sells, like animal feed, and it's got a little tool section, and it sells sometimes real wild.
I love Tractor Supply.
Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, I didn't know if that was
where
just
I get in trouble because that's where I always buy my chickens. And I went in today and they had them for $2 a piece. That's like 75% off. So I was like jonesing to buy chickens, and I have no room for any more baby chickens. So y'all, it was a miracle. I left Tractor Supply with no chickens. Like,
yeah, because chicken math is real.
And chicken mac is real. So sorry, side journey because you talked about Tractor Supply, which just happens to be my favorite store.
Well, she had called Billy, and Billy needed a chainsaw. So we went to Tractor Supply, and I had an Auburn. In Alabama, we have two football teams. That's Crimson Tide and War Eagles. One's Alabama, one's Auburn. Both huge universities. And I always was for Auburn because everybody else in my family was for Alabama, and I had to be different. And I had this huge Auburn War Eagle, beautiful blue satin 80s top jacket. And I had to wear that jacket. And she went in there, and I kid you not, she wanted me to pretend like I was nauseated or I had a really bad headache, and that she just needed to grab something real quick. And she always bought something, right? And so we're in there, and she picks up this chainsaw, and I'm not talking about cut down a huge tree. I would say it was probably 1.5 feet long.
So one of the smaller ones,
a little like chainsaw that he wanted.
Yeah, little small trees.
Yeah, but it was one that he had told her, "I'll give you this if you bring me this."
Oh wow!
So we went in there, and she gets this chainsaw, and I was used to her taking bigger chances as I got bigger. But she put that chainsaw like under my knees, and she said, "Are you hot, honey?" And she was helping me take my jacket off because then I could hold the jacket kind of in my arms, and it would help cover all of it. Now, what store manager or a clerk or cashier, when you go in there and she's making a big deal and she's making it loud enough to say, "I've just got to grab something, honey, and then we'll stop it after hours on the way home." She's already letting the store people know my child don't feel good. So who then is going to stop this child and this woman and search them? And I was sitting there, and I remember just shaking like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Because then it became my responsibility to make sure it was concealed.
Scary. And wait, how old were you again?
I had to be, I would say 10.
Oh man.
9 or 10. I would have had to be 9 or 10 because I would have had to be 9 because I'm trying to think what car we had at that time. So I would say 9 or 10 years old. I don't know. Somewhere in there. But the store at that time, it was small. It actually started off as Ace Hardware and then later on become a Tractor Supply. So I can't even remember at the time if it was Ace Hardware or if it was already Tractor Supply, but it's the same building I call today the Tractor Supply building. So I can't remember if it was Ace Hardware at that time or I had already switched over to Tractor Supply, but it literally had the same stuff in it. It just switched names. But I had to be 9 or 10. But I remember her job was to get in the buggy. And from that point on, I had to worry about what was showing. And I had to get really good at watching the employees, that if it was my job at 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, that if someone was watching her, I had to let them know she was watching, and we got taken to the police station 3 different times with her. And I remember sitting there in the chair one night when this police officer is telling her, you did this with your kid. And they didn't do anything to me. All they did was call my uncle, which was my dad's brother. And she signed herself out. I don't know what you call that, but she signed herself out. She had to go to court later. But she literally got a slap on the wrist with stealing with a kid with you. And they literally come and picked us up at the police station. And later on, she had to go to court. She never told my dad. And the last time that it happened, that she was caught, I was questioned because by this time I'm older, and VHS cameras started coming in. Like some of the stores started having some cameras, and they were asking me questions about, did you know your mother was doing this? Because we seen you watching it, and I lied for my mom. Absolutely straight. That was my mom. No, I wasn't helping her. No. I know what, if that was my chance, right? And I've heard so many people talking about that. Gypsy talked to those doctors. She chattered like she could be. Absolutely. But do you think she's going to tell them the truth? If you think that she could, at any point at that time, just stand up and tell them doctors, listen, this woman is lying. It was her mom. I could have told that police officer the truth, but my job then become protector. I had to make sure that it didn't look like my mom was making me do this. No, I didn't know nothing. So I lied for her. And something else that I did multiple times is, my dad was getting to the end of his rope with her, right? And on the outside, we were the perfect family. I have 3 older brothers. My mother had me at 37. And then 11 years before me, she had her baby boy. And then they were doorsteps. Like they were 13, 14, and 15. And then they were 11, 12, and 13. And then here I come. So there was a big difference in our ages. And my parents really struggled when they were babies. By the time I come along, my dad had a really good job in the mines and was going somewhere in that job. So my dad was getting to the end of his rope with her, and things were starting to get really bad at home between them. He never touched her. I never seen violence in my life as far as my dad put his hands on my mom. I seen some awful argument fights, but I never physically seen now I see my mother put her hands on my dad, but never my dad touched my mom. But he was at the end of his rope, right? He was working, and he was at the end of his rope. I'll just leave it at that. And he started getting things, what I believe now was in order to leave when I graduated high school. And he was trying to get things in order and get his ducks in a row, as I want to call it. But they had went and put new linoleum down in the kitchen. And my mom needed her medicine. And I remember 2 strangers, when I had to be at least 12 years old, 2 strange men that I would now describe as meth heads, right? Now I don't know of my mom doing anything except pills, her medicine. But today, if I looked at those men, I would say meth heads. They come to the house and she calls out and she's like, come help me unload this refrigerator. And I'm like, why? And she's like, it quit. They're going to take it off. It didn't quit. Nothing about it quit. And she's like, help me unload it. They got to take it. They're going to take it. They're going to get rid of it. I helped her unload the refrigerator. So now the kitchen table and the counters are, full of food. And these two junky looking guys are trying to slide this refrigerator out on a blanket so that it doesn't scratch the floor. And as they're going out the back door and they're trying to lift it, they cut. It's funny what you remember. They cut the linoleum just a little bit. And I remember my mother being freaked out over that linoleum. Not that she just sold our refrigerator for medicine, but because they ripped the tile a little bit. So my dad comes in. I get up the next morning, and I guess they had been up all night talking because the refrigerator's going when my dad gets home from the mines. And I get up to get ready for school, and they both look like they had been fighting all night. And I walk in the living room, and she looked at me and she said, tell your father, didn't the refrigerator quit? I knew to go along with her. She had told me the night before, if anyone asks, just tell them that the lights don't work in it anymore. They'll know what that means. So I looked my dad in his eyes of who I still think hangs the moon. And I lied to him because of her.
You okay?
Yeah. Give me a minute.
So, being a daddy's girl myself,
okay, I'm good.
Okay.
So I lied to him, and I got good at it, because if I kept him okay with mom, then they didn't fight. And I lied to him about it so that I had to go along with her and convince him that, I don't know, I opened the door and the light wasn't working, and stuff wasn't getting cold anymore. And then he wanted to know, well, how did the refrigerator disappear? And my mother stood there and told him, I had two of the boys come and get it from the church, because I knew if we didn't get it out of here and get rid of that piece of crap, that we wouldn't get a new one, that you would just try to fix it again. And it's time for a new one. Now, let me go back to the boys at the church. Every Sunday morning, every Sunday night, every Wednesday night, every Thursday evening was choir practice, was church. On the outside, we looked like the family that lived in the nice house, whose father had a good job, who was a stay-at-home mom, and we looked picture perfect. Two dogs and a cat. I mean, we looked picture perfect from the outside. My mother held positions in the church. So there was always that keeping up with the Joneses thing, and making sure that no one ever found out her secret. And it was this constant battle of covering her tracks, so dad didn't know what she did. Like, because she was a stay-at-home mom and he worked the hours that he worked, he wanted something to eat when he got home from 12 hours of shoveling coal in the mines. And so his dinner time was 1:00 in the morning. And she would always try to have them something fixed if she had her medicine. So at a very early age, I learned to cook, because and my dad, to the day he died, he would not have food in the microwave. He wasn't having that. There was no way you was going to have him eat no food out of the microwave. So he wanted if you fixed it, say if she had fixed me dinner and had fixed him dinner at the same time, say before I went to bed for school, she would still get back up when he'd come in at 1:00 and reheat it in the oven and have it ready for him. the older I got, the more that become my job. And if there wasn't dinner cooked for me, or I didn't cook my own dinner, then I would make sure by 10, 11 o'clock that I was cooking something to make it look like she cooked, so I could leave it in the oven. And hopefully she would get up when he got in and heated it up. Or, I mean, you're talking old school. He was the old school husband, like that's what he expected, and that's what worked for them. So I just remember at an early age learning to cook so I could keep dad happy, because I had to keep mom happy. And if I had to lie for her, that was fine. If I had to go and fake being sick, that was fine, because it was my job and that's what I was told to do. And there was always a reward too. And some way or another, whether it took place or not, as I got older, and she would have to ask me, will you come and do this stuff? I need to do this, or I need to do that. We got to go. It was always, we got to go do this. In my mind, it was like my mom was my friend. I loved her. I absolutely adored her. I just wanted her to adore me back. And the medicine is what she adored. But I could get a little bit of that affection if I provided the medicine. And whatever it took to get it, I did. It was easier for her to get it if she had a kid in her arms. It was easier for her to get by with stuff in the store if she had a kid in the buggy that was hiding the stuff. It was just, and these things grew from small up to much bigger things as I got older. So when I hear, to get this, how it connects back with Gypsy, as I hear that people's like, she stood on that stand and she said she always knew she could walk. What a fraud she is. It's like, I've heard this shit so many times. You're right. That makes it worse, because she did know she could walk. But to keep mom happy, to keep the scam going for mom, even if she did get a reward, because that's what everybody's going to say, oh, she got this too out of it. She had to play this role, and she had to give up her childhood, because I think mom had these dreams, and I think some of her mom's dreams was being admired by everybody or getting attention, and Gypsy brought her that.
Dee Dee always wanted to be center of attention. Dee Dee had to be center of attention at all times.
And that makes sense, because Gypsy gave her that attention. Gypsy become her tool. And so this nurse that wants to put this one thing in this little box and turn this into, we have all the answers now. This was never child abuse. This was never medical abuse. The most she might have had was her mother taught her to lie or scam. That's the most credit they've given her. And that is one sentence that they'll say, and then they'll talk for hours on everything else. One sentence and brush it off their shoulder and go on. That one sentence deserves months of research of how much the mental damage and grooming plays into who she is today. And again, I have nothing for Gypsy. Nothing.
And this right here, guys, this statement from Ty, Dee Dee always said two things. She wanted to be rich and famous. Ty was Dee Dee's best friend growing up. She knew Dee Dee, I'd say, all of her life. They went to school together. They hung out together. They had issues. Like all teenagers. She knew Dee Dee better than any of us, and better than April ever would. And so the fact that a certain somebody wants to discredit Ty even on what Ty knew and what Ty brought to the table and what Ty said all these years, yeah, fuck you. Not Ty. Not Ty. The other
Not
one.
Ty.
I realized when I said that, I was like, wait, not for Ty, not for Ty. That was for her.
So let me flip the script for just a minute. And that is, I used this example earlier, Brandy, when me and you were talking about, or it might have been me and Heather. I don't know. I can't keep up with it anymore. I tell what to. My mind's so scattered with everything that's going on. But I was talking about, let's take a serial killer, just any one of them that's got child abuse in their childhood.
Let's go with Charles Manson.
Most of them do.
Charles Manson talked about a lot.
Right. And he had a lot of child abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're telling his story and you're breaking his story down, and the experts are trying to study his ways and his patterns in his life and what led him to be who he was. You can do the chapters of him meeting the girls and setting up the kind of the cult thing, but you can't leave out his child abuse. You can't leave out the part that created what he become. Now, there's a time in my life, and I want to read one of the messages that somebody sent me because she's got some really good questions in there. That is,
yeah. So Kendal was sent a lot of really, and she's not going to say the names of these people. She's going to give them their privacy, but the messages meant a lot.
It was incredible. I could not believe the support and so there. I won't say so many, but there were several people that reached out that said, I supported Fancy with this. I really believed that they finally put it together. And that's why I'm upset with Colleen, because Colleen is so educated and she's so smart. And how can you hand this records to her and let Fancy go on this rampage that I found the answer, and not stop her and say, no, you found part of the answer, which I do believe they found a big part of the answer. But you just can't leave the biggest part out. Like, you just can't.
I didn't mean to do that. I hit the wrong thing.
But let me read this one. How do I get on TikTok on my laptop?
Don't make me lie.
I had it on my laptop when I was reading it to you earlier, so I know I can. I just wasn't the one that pulled it up. Okay. Okay, I think this is the one. All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, let me get a drink. Okay. It says Kendal. Now this was a book. I had several books, and maybe book 1 and book 2 from some of these people. It says, Kendal, I want to thank you for sharing your story. The way this crime is being used by the internet and people like Fancy and that nurse, and her calling her that nurse makes me think that maybe, I don't know. It's weird that she didn't call her Colleen, but she said that nurse to make money, build a platform, and in Fancy's case, start a business or run a business or whatever her business is disturbing. Once money is involved, I guess you really can no longer trust that the truth will be told. I do think the nurse took this diagnosis and handed it to Fancy for the ending of their book that they needed. We must demand better from our medical professionals. I don't doubt that this is a real condition that Gypsy has, but I doubt that it answers all the questions that they are pretending that it does. Fancy is not the type of person that will ever step back from the summary of Gypsy's life that she has created. This is the type of story she's always wanted to tell since the day that the Blanchards and Fancy parted ways. I guess I bought what they were selling because I thought it all made sense at one point, not that long ago, when they come out with a diagnosis, and there was no way Gypsy suffered abuse at the hands of her mother. I truly believe that. I truly did believe that. Even more now, after hearing you speak, I believe that Gypsy should still be locked up and in therapy. That would be a way to make sure she got her therapy, or at least mandatory therapy in a halfway house for many years to come. You might not agree with that, but hang on. You might not agree with that, but that's how I feel. She has proven since December that she has no impulse control and incapable of making responsible, rational decisions. I believe Dee Dee and Gypsy, I believed Dee Dee and Gypsy scammed and committed fraud together to live a lifestyle that Dee Dee couldn't give Gypsy alone. Still, maybe some part of that is true at a certain point, but I no longer believe it to be that simple. I convinced myself if Gypsy was really abused and wanted help, she could have told anyone at any time. Thank you for humanizing the real prison that that child must have felt like she lived in when raised by a parent that groomed her like your mother groomed you. I would like to understand more from someone who was raised like this. Why do you think you were able to break away, yet Gypsy was not and ended up taking her mother's life? That's her first question. So, why do you believe that you were able to break away? I broke away at 16, and I knew that. Now, little difference in me and Gypsy is my mother had a house that my daddy paid for. My mother had a car. My mother had an income from my dad. My mother wasn't solely dependent on me to bring money into the house. My daddy was going to support my mother. So I believe that if I would have been um had a single parent and I was completely her meal ticket to be able to keep the lights on
and completely isolated. People got to remember she moved from Louisiana to Missouri away from all family.
Right. And I also was in school with friends. I had friends at school.
Right.
You know that. So I believe that me and Gypsy's on a completely different level when it comes to that. Why I was able to walk away and she wasn't. Though I will say I do not excuse what she did and how she got away by no means. But I can't say that enough because I know how this is all going to be twisted. But I believe that I was able to walk away because I didn't have the guilt that Gypsy would have had if she would have walked away at 16 or 17 or 18. That what will my mother do? Because I wasn't going to let my mother do without. You know, it's like I made sure she had her medicine some way or another. I wasn't going to let her do without, even on that level. So I can't imagine what that load would have been if I had a woman in my ear, because Dee Dee would have been nothing without Gypsy. Gypsy was her meal ticket. So I can't imagine what it would have been like if it would have just been me and my mother. And everything depended on us working together to be able to keep everything going. That had to be a hard guilt. Um, all right. Her next question was, where in your life did you say you had had enough? That one's a hard one because that goes into a little bit deeper situation than I really wanted to. I had something
If you're not
happen.
comfortable sharing it, then don't share it.
I won't share the details, but I had something happen because of my mother at 16, and I could not prove that she wasn't a part of it or that she didn't know about it or she didn't help plan it, but it changed my life forever. And it ended up in court, and the man involved ended up going to prison for it. And during the time, I was dating my daughter's father, who I was married to for many years. And I went with him and ended up getting married at a very early age while I was still in high school to get away from her. My dad had left a couple of months before this situation happened because he had had enough too. They had said they were going to stay together till I graduated, but I graduated at 16. So only like a few months before I graduated and he left, this situation happened. And that's how I got out. So it was a traumatic thing that happened that got me out, but there was no excuse for me to go back. We were in 2 years later, we were in court and I had to look at her and I had to face him. And at 18 was the last time I seen her, and I walked away and never turned back. And to this day, I couldn't tell you anything about her. I never seen her. My kids don't know her.
I'm sorry.
So anyway, On to the next one. Did you ever tell anyone while it was going on? I feel like Gypsy had a chance to at least told someone. No, I did not tell no one because there is a code of secrets. There is a code of silence, whether it's talked about or not, as far as you don't tell nobody this. You just knew that it wasn't, you couldn't tell nobody.
These people need to come listen to our series that we're doing, Silence No More, with these victims that are in this freaking boarding schools that are abused horribly. Teenagers who didn't grow up that way, right? They didn't grow up in these four walls with these strangers abusing them. They all of a sudden were ripped out of their beds and thrown into the school and abused, and never said a word because they knew what would happen if they did.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder why Gypsy didn't say anything, people. Come on. That drives me crazy.
And that's why, again, I say medical professionals in this series, in this case, anybody, whether it's Colleen or anyone else, that's going to dismiss as one sentence and brush it off your shoulder as it's just only worth one sentence, you're delusional.
Very much.
Absolutely delusional. So I never told you
dismissing anybody's abuse. I just don't. It pisses me off and makes me angry. Do not dismiss somebody's abuse. Sorry.
So did I tell anyone? Absolutely not. I was not taking the chance of them telling someone else. I wasn't going to take the chance of my mother being found out and it destroying my home, making her upset with me, which was the big thing, is I loved her so much. And I wasn't going to take that chance. So do you feel like she freely participated? Okay, wait. I'm going to stop. Where did I go? I hate DMs on TikTok.
And let me just say, guys, I'm not defending what Gypsy does now in any way.
No, she's gross right now.
The problem is she's had no one ever, including her fucking stepmother, guide her properly. Ever. And
the sad part is I've been through years of therapy. And for Gypsy to say, and I heard her say this one time, that she had tried therapy or she was going to therapy or something, and that a therapist had told her that she had, I forget how she said it, but that she was pretty much okay, that she kind of come out good. That to me, one, you cannot convince me a therapist said that. Or two, she got so good at what she was taught to do that she can just cut it off, that she can just cut the emotions off and can fake it until you make it kind of thing. And that all goes back to, because that's what we were taught as a kid to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's all part of it. And until she gets ready, in my opinion, as someone that's been in her shoes, not as drastic as I think as hers was, but close to her shoes, that until you open that up and you deal with it, and still I'm having a hard time right now dealing with it, is you've got to come to peace with some things, and you've got to accept responsibility for what you did. And you can never second guess yourself and say, God, I just wished I would have done this, or I wish I'd have done that. You got to give the child version of you grace.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to. And you've got to deal as an adult. You've got to go and you've got to love that little kid that no one did or that someone else used. So, and I think until she gets to that point and she sees how much she really needs it, it's not just sitting across from a therapist and trying to get through this, and is really ready to break those walls down and start building back. She's always going to need someone holding her hand, whether it's a husband or a prison guard or her mother or a boyfriend, or she's always got to have that person holding her hand. She's going to have to learn to walk on her own and find out who she is, because it took me years, and I'm twice her age almost, to even know who I was, because my identification, I identified and didn't even realize it, of who I was or what I was molded to be.
Yes, Delilah, I do. Delilah says, okay, so I have to ask, do you think she is still in the mindset currently? Like she doesn't realize that she's made a mess of it all? Like she keeps doing stuff to fix it, but then making it worse? Absolutely, 100%.
And I don't think at this point, I know everyone's got a different opinion of Christy. So let me be biased about it for a minute with no opinion.
Y'all know I can't be biased right now. Sorry.
Well, but I can. And that's why I want to say, let me do it. Is I don't think that Gypsy can be reached by anybody on the in that circle. Right. I don't think that her daddy could reach her. I don't think that anything that Christy could say is going to reach her.
It's above their pay grade. It's above their pay grade. They are not qualified, honestly.
Well, right. They're not qualified, but also she is, and I'm going strictly on how I was, right? So I can only go on how I was. Hard-headed. When I finally got my freedom, I was hard-headed and wasn't nobody going to tell me nothing.
And that's what we see with her right now. That's what we see.
Yeah, you wasn't going to tell me nothing. I got married at 16. I had a kid by 20. And I was going to do my life and I was going to do it my way. And I don't care what anyone says. And if you don't like it, that's even better for me, because I found out that there was a way to rebel and break those chains but the healing didn't start. The healing, I did all that stuff and still didn't have a clue who I was. I was a little kid in a woman's body. That's all I was. So I don't think there is no reaching Gypsy. I think she's going to have to do exactly what I did. You're going to have to fall on your face. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to pick up the pieces and you're going to have to start on level 1 and build it back and heal that inner child. And you don't do that in a couple of years.
And you don't get on social media.
You don't do that in 10 years. I'm still dealing with it. So, and I just don't believe any way, shape, or form she is capable of seeing that at this point. She's just too headstrong of it. She can't see it. She just can't see it.
She spent 23 years with no freedom. She's now, and then, the 8.5 years in prison. Now she's out, and that's all she's been in prison all of her life. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, fuck you. Nobody is controlling me ever again.
And if it makes you mad and it hits the papers and TikTok's mad and Fancy Marcelli's mad and everyone's talking about me, then F you.
Right.
I'm going to do it even more.
Right. Because she's, and I've understood that. And and I've said that all along. I do understand that. I totally get it. I just wish somebody was guiding her a little bit better than what has been done.
I just don't believe anybody could. Even if they had the best of intentions, she's going to have to fall on her face. And it might be burning through this money. It might be like, okay, now what do I do? I can't ride this wave forever. Somebody else is going to come along that's going to take my spotlight. And then I'm going to have to figure out how to make it through this life. And it might take a couple of years for that to happen. And she's going to end up having to fall on her face. And she's going to have to build back. And she's going to stumble. And she's going to make some mistakes. And
I agree.
She's going to make even bigger ones than she has. I mean, there's bigger ones coming.
She's 32 going on 16 right now. And I agree with that. She's still stuck in a teenager's mentality.
I don't even think she's a teenager's mentality.
Really?
I absolutely don't. I think she's still got very kiddish ways. Now, I don't know her on the personal level like that. But I don't even believe she's at a teenage level. I think she's still that broken. And I don't mean to make her sound delicate because she freaking murdered her mother. But I believe that there's this childlike side of her that she was so used to bouncing back to, that was her go-to. She for the longest time pretended to be a kid because that's what worked, right? That's what worked in the scam. She learned to perfect that. And I believe that she still can quickly flip a switch and can turn that side on. I could. And I ain't went through half of what she went through.
Look at Mariska says, and people and professionals, mind you, stating that she did not suffer abuse is literally giving her no chance to heal herself.
Absolutely. Which is, again,
100%.
why I went to the board. And it's like, I know there's some people so upset about that, but you have a responsibility when you have those initials. And if anybody on that team over there should have been smart enough to know that it's more than just one or two little sentences when you're on a 3-hour rant, or what was that live the other night, almost 5 hours, and
Almost
it
five
literally was a
hours.
two
Yeah,
sentences.
on Crime Rewind, it was 4 hours and 41 minutes, I think. Poor girl. Woo, Veda, if you're still here, I feel for you, honey. It was rough.
She was here.
Yeah, she stepped in a little bit while ago.
Um, so, all right, let me find where I was again. Yeah, I wish I would have copied and pasted this and put it on Notepad so it wasn't so hard to deal with on TikTok. I guess I bought what they were selling because though it all made sense at one time with this diagnosis, and there was no way Gypsy suffered abuse at the hands of her mother, I truly believed that even more now after hearing you speak. I believe Gypsy should still be locked up and in therapy, or at least mandatory therapy in a halfway house. I know I read this, but I can't find my place. Locked up in therapy, halfway house. She has proven since December that she has no impulse control and capable of making responsible and rational decisions. I believed Dee Dee and Gypsy scammed and committed fraud together to live a lifestyle that Dee Dee couldn't give Gypsy. Still, maybe a small part of that is true, but I no longer believe it's that simple. I convinced myself if Gypsy was really abused and wanted help, she could have told anyone at any time. Thank you for humanizing the real prison that child must have felt like she lived in when raised by a parent that grooms them to participate. I would like to understand more from someone that was raised like this. Why do you think she broke away? Do you feel like okay, here's one. Do you feel like she freely participated at some point? I did. I freely participated at one point. The outcome would have been the same. I knew some nights when I would get home from school and mom had been in the bed for 3 days straight, what I now know would have been withdrawal. Didn't understand it at the time. And sick as a dog. And I'm trying to tell her, call Billy and see if he can get you some medicine, and we can go and do something to help Billy so he'll give you some medicine. I freely participated. That that's what I knew made her happy. And also, I don't know if I said this or not earlier, but when I'm talking about my mom, as far as when she was on her quote air quote medicine, she was such a different, she was the best mom in the world. She would fix me brownies. If she had them in the morning, she would get up before I would go get on the bus and fix me breakfast or pancakes. She would pack my lunch. She would be there to do my homework or help me with my homework or craft projects. But if she didn't have it, if I didn't get myself up and I didn't walk myself down that long driveway, and we lived way out a long driveway, no close neighbors, and you have to walk way down the driveway to catch the bus. If I didn't have myself at the end of that driveway to get on the bus, then I just didn't go to school that day. I just didn't. And there was no, you missed the bus. There was none of that. I knew if I didn't get on that bus though, and I missed the bus and she was still sick and I was going to be home all day, she was going to come up with some way or another that she was going to find a way to get her medicine. And most of the time it was going to include me to get it. Oh, well, let's go to the ER and get you a doctor's excuse so this don't count against you. And I'd have to fake whatever it was I was faking at the time.
So Mariska has a question. If you don't mind me asking, Kendall, what kind of medication was she on? If you don't want to answer, you don't have to answer, obviously.
Oh no, I don't mind. As far as I know, it would have been pain pills, because I mean it would just make sense that she would have me go and fake kidney stones and stuff like that. I'm sure it was hydrocodone or codeine or whatever the other one is, Vicodin, that type of stuff. Now you're talking late 70s, early 80s, so I don't know if Oxycontin and stuff like that existed back then. I'm not sure when that come on the market. I've watched a couple of documentaries about it, so I'm not sure if that was back then. But I do know that I caught her several times with a straw up her nose, or I always found, because I would clean her bedroom, because that was something else I used to do all the time. I could make her happy if I cleaned, because then Dad wouldn't be mad if the house was clean, because it looked like she had cleaned the house. And I would find straws cut up, and I would find mirrors and stuff like that. I would find something that now I know is probably her crushing the pills. So she did snort the pills. She didn't swallow them. Her next question was, do you remember the first time she used you to benefit herself? Not exactly. It was kind of just always a part of my life. I think I just thought it was normal for in the beginning. I think I was probably 8, 9, 10 years old before I started realizing that she was having me. She called people when we go in stores. She would say, "Look for the floor rats. Look for the floor rats," which meant any employees that was looking her way. So I become part of it at that age, instead of just, the cute kid in the stroller or the buggy that was the distraction. So I can't really say the first time she used me to benefit. Anyway, she said, I could ask 100 questions. I'm trying to research more now since you brought this to my attention about parental grooming. But mostly all I can see is sexual grooming. Girl, I just want to thank you for stopping my role. I have not been nice to Gypsy when speaking about this case with other people. I still don't like what she is portraying to our youth today. But somewhere in me now, there is an ounce of compassion that I didn't feel before. How do you personally feel about Gypsy, if you don't mind me asking? I think I've made that pretty clear. I think she's a broken, an adult that's broken, that very much committed one of the worst crimes that I think you can, is taking your parents' life. I can't excuse that on any level, but I also didn't live her life. I do agree with Fancy and a lot of other people that hormones kicked in at a certain age, and her little girl body turned into a woman, and boys come on the scene, and she couldn't keep up this game she had played her whole life with her mother. And I believe me and her differ in that is, like I said earlier, is there was a dad left there to take care of my mom when, if for me to have stepped up and left, I knew Dad was still going to take care of my mom. Even though my dad left, my mother and dad had been married for over 40 years, 30 years, 30, 40 years at that time. I mean, I had brothers that were in their late 20s when I was born. So,
well, you had outside influences to show you there was another way of life. You had school, you had your dad, you had friends, you had all of that. Gypsy, I mean, y'all, her level of thinking things were going to be rainbows and unicorns was she thought $5,000 was going to help her and Nicholas live happily ever after. And
right.
I mean, $5,000 don't go far for anything anymore.
No, and I know that there's the stories of her going to the Vision Con, and she's being caught in a motel with this guy, and she's being done this, and you put all of that together. You put it all together. How many days was that? Like, if you take everything that she did, and you put it in a day, like, okay, she was caught in a hotel on this day. You said, okay, that's one day. She was at Vision Con another day. Okay, that's 2 days of her life. She went to the hospital to see Dan. Okay, that's 3 days of her life. So if you give her a day for every little thing that she managed to sneak away or do or whatever, how many days compound in her life did she break away and go do something? Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I can't say if I would have. I have this connection of what I know the child Gypsy went through, which was where my pain is with her. So I can't say what I would have done. I don't think I'd have killed my mother, but I don't think I'd have found somebody that I thought I could manipulate. She was taught to manipulate. I was taught to
Mhm.
manipulate. That's what we knew to do. You want to get
Jojo
something.
Jojo asked if you ever did you ever try to refuse?
Oh yeah, but there was no refusing. If I refused, and I'll tell you the story about and I know what Barbie it is too. It was this gold Barbie, and I wanted this Barbie so bad. And I wished I knew what year it come out, because that would tell me what year this happened in. But it was called the Golden Dream Barbie, and I wanted it so bad. And
I remember
um,
that Barbie. I had her.
Golden Dream Barbie. Oh,
Yes.
I wanted that Barbie so bad, and I'll have to look it up to find out what year it is. But like I said, I was born in 71,
I
so
had
that
them
would
all.
that would tell me how old I was when this happened. And I remember mom was being so sick, and our church was having vacation Bible school. We have that in the South. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but we would have vacation Bible school, and it was where like 2 weeks out of the year, the church would put on some kind of little you went to church every day, and they did crafts with the kids and stuff like that.
We had that. Yep.
Do you have that? Okay.
Yep.
So I wanted so bad. The church bus was going to come around and get everybody, and I wanted so bad to go. And I had went a couple of days, and a day come up, and she was in the bed. She was doing her normal, um, or probably withdrawal, and she didn't want me to go. And she's like, "Don't leave me, don't leave me." And I'm like, "But I want to go." It's like I love crafts and drawing. And it's like I want to go so bad. I just want to go. And she told me, she's like, "No, I need you to stay here because, I might have to go to the ER." And what that meant, I might need to go to the ER, is meant I had to go to the ER, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
got to where we went to the ER so much we'd have to really drive to find one that wasn't connected to each other. And I went ahead and got ready. And I told her, I was like, "I'm gone. I'll see you in a little bit." We weren't even at Vacation Bible School, probably 4 hours. And I went ahead and got on the church bus. Church bus pulled up, beeped. I ran out, jumped in church bus. And when I got back, she acted like she put me on this guilt trip of that she didn't know she was going to make it, that she told me this thing about she had got sick all over herself and she didn't have anybody here. And she was calling, she knew that I got on the church bus. They pulled up and beeped. Her bedroom was in the front of the house. It's like, "I called and I called for you and you didn't come, and I was so sick and I kept calling for you." And she put me on this guilt trip because I went to Vacation Bible School. And so I don't know if it was that same day or it was the next day. She had told me, "If you'll go with me to JC Penney's." And our JC Penney's was in the mall. And on one side of the mall, there was a store called Kmart, which I don't even know if some of y'all know what Kmart is, but
Yep, we have Kmart too.
okay. We don't have them around here anymore. So one side
That
of the
was
mall
the
was
discount store before Walmart.
right. So one side of the mall was Kmart, one side of the mall was JC Penney's. And she told me, she said, "I'm so sick. I just, Mama needs her medicine." Or she would say mommy. She's like, "Mommy needs her medicine." Even when I was an older kid, she'd call herself mommy. She's like, "Mommy needs her medicine." And she said, if you'll go with me and, you'll help Mommy get her medicine, she's like, "I'll get you that Barbie you want." So here's where I think that I can also relate with Gypsy, because I remember in an interview Gypsy did, that there was always something good. Like there might be something bad that happens, but there's always going to be something good too. Like I might have to go and get this procedure done, but while we're down there, you're going to get to do this. So she was like, "If you'll go, I'll get you that Barbie." And it was the Golden Dream Barbie. And I want to say it was 79 or 80, something like that. And I went with her, and we had to start off at Kmart because Kmart had buggies. JCPenney's did not. So we started off at Kmart, and at Kmart, I had to pretend I had a sprained ankle, or eventually she got me this black Velcro boot thing that I could put on my foot. And she helped me get into this buggy at one end of the mall. And And I had to be 10, 11 years old. I remember being old enough that I was worried I was going to see some of my friends at the mall and I'm in the back of the buggy, you know. So I had to be old enough to be aware that, okay, I'm going to be embarrassed if someone sees this. And we started at Kmart because they had buggies, and we went through the whole thing about my daughter's foot sprained, and she used to tell him it was broke when she got that black boot thing. And do you mind that we use a buggy, and we'll bring it back when we're done? And what she had done is she had called Billy again, and Billy's sister was big into church, not our church, but another church. And we went, it was a black church, and this ain't got nothing to do with race, because we loved Billy's sister. Billy's sister, even though they went to church on Sunday and sold pills every other day of the week, she was good to me. She was so sweet to me. And we went over there, and my mother would call Billy or call Billy's sister. Now, her name was, what was her name? Bernice. So she would call Bernice, and she would say, what it was Billy's the one with the pills. His sister lived with him, and whatever she gave a list for, my mother would go and get, and then he would pay my mother with the pills, and then whatever mother got, she would give to them, and ever who got it. But Billy was always the one that paid her. Well, she wanted 2 Sunday dresses from JCPenney's, and she was a bigger woman, and my mother wasn't that big, and my mother hiding stuff was almost impossible if she was by herself. So here again is where I come in at. And so we went and got the buggy, and we're going up to the mall where JCPenney's is. And I'm in the buggy, and the floor of the mall was like tiles. So the buggy's going pop, 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 pop. And it's like you're like a warning light, flashing on and off because it's making so much noise. So we go all the way to the other end of the mall. And she goes and she pulls a few dresses off of the rack at the mall. And I see someone that I know. And I'm like trying to get out of the back of the buggy, and my mother's pitching a silent fit. Like she could just look at me, right? Just this certain look.
My mom had that look. Oh,
yeah.
Man.
And I was like, they're going to see me. I'm not going to do this. I can't do this. They're going to see me. And she literally jerked me by I had a t-shirt on, and I had a little chain on. I had a little cross on it, and she jerked me by the collar of my shirt, and it broke my chain. And she just jerked me up like really close to her, and like right up in her face. And she wasn't screaming, she was whispering it, but it was like, she just like got the look in her face now still even breaks my heart, because it's like it's like that sounds mean, but I know how now as an adult how unwell she was at that time, and how me saying no was her knowing she was starting to be deathly sick. She couldn't have done it on her own, because the woman was a bigger woman. My mom was small. Where was she going to put it?
Right.
And so, yeah, I did try to say no. Several times I tried to say no, but I just knew 2 things. I knew there was no option to say no, because I was going to be in trouble some way or another, or a guilt trip. Or the other thing is I wanted the other mom. I wanted the mom that after she took her medicine was my mom.
Right.
And I craved that mom. Okay, was that all of this one? No. No, that was all of this one. Okay. All right, here's another one. It says, "Hi, Kendall. You don't know me, but okay, I can't say names. So I'm going to say just beep." So, "Hi, Kendall. You don't know me, but I am Beep on YouTube and Beep on TikTok. This is my backup. A friend told me about your videos, and I hopped over here to check you out. I am a Beep, and 6 months from now, I'm graduating from Beep College with a Beep." And I'm trying to protect people. "I have always said that no one is digging deep enough into the mental aspects of this case. There's two types of people that seem to take this case on. They're either pro Gypsy and act like she's a delicate flower and wears a crown today, or the people that hate her and want everyone else to hate her. Then there's Fancy, that loved her, then hated her, and now is hell-bent on destroying her and making money off of her and having the world hate her. So thank you for speaking out on the mental aspect of this case. I know you were telling your story, but honestly, I know you were telling your story, but the honesty in your story and the similarities between your childhood and Gypsy's, I feel like maybe you helped open some eyes. I wish this case could be told by someone with nothing to gain. Someone that would really take someone like yourself that has been through personal, real life experiences with grooming and break down how much of this case was real abuse and how much was medical fraud on both their parts. I have tried to support Fancy, mostly because she suffered so much hate online when that beat lady switched sides. I I believe also that Colleen has acted unethically. I do want to advise you that she has not broken any HIPAA laws. Shit, I just lost my place. TikTok on the computer sucks. Okay.
I've never even tried.
Well, it sucks. It's a little bitty window. I do want to advise you that she did not break any HIPAA laws, but we as medical professionals should always hold ourselves accountable for the information we put into the world and what others intend on doing with said information that we give them. I do not agree with asking your followers to report her if you actually did that. Yeah, I did, but I did ask them, if you're going to do it, please be careful and please be truthful. But someone needed to speak to her and remind her of the code of ethics that we all should be abiding by. I'm not sure how she got the medical records. Depends on which side you listen to, but if the patient, Gypsy, in this case, did not personally give Colleen her records, then she's going to have an issue, in my opinions, with the board. Gypsy, given the records to Fancy, which Gypsy's not who gave them to Fancy. Gypsy giving the records to Fancy and Fancy then giving them to Colleen is not how the chain ethically works. I know I would not have ever risked my license without proper paperwork from the patient herself and a clear description of what she was asking me to do with said records. Then before posting anything publicly that I had found or researched, I would have asked for approval from the patient. I've heard Fancy say so many times that she would not share the records because she is not unethical like some of these people are, but now she says Colleen has done nothing wrong. I beg to differ. I didn't know this one was about mostly them. She has placed them in her members only club, which I guess she's talking about Patreon, her members only club, and charging money from strangers to view someone else's private records. Very messy. And I think if it was done this way with malice, and that alone will be a problem with the board. I don't know if you know this, but the American Nurse Association will. I ain't going to say that part either. Did you try to speak to Colleen and tell her that? I can't say that either. Thank you, Kendall, for your testimony. Hopefully, something good can come out of this mess, and finally someone will step up and do the deep dive into the mental side of this case that is so much needed, and do as much for the mental side as they did the medical side with an unbiased opinion.
I have been trying to get people to look at the mental side for 5 years because you have to think about Stockholm syndrome with this.
Well,
and people want to ignore that every time. If Gypsy was a woman who had been kidnapped, taken away from her family, all that she knew, wasn't allowed to be, go to college, maybe she was a college student, wasn't allowed to go back to college, was chained into this little life that was not her own. And she took the life of her kidnapper who was abusing her. Nobody would think twice.
I believe that she was very groomed for many, many years. And then she got to a part to where that her grooming um, becomes second nature, that it just become who she was.
Mm-hmm.
And she went along with her mom. I think that on the way to the hospitals, they would talk about how they were going to handle it. How I think that, and this is
Oh,
just
I
me.
absolutely believe that Dee Dee
Yeah.
told her that if she didn't go along, they would both go to jail. I absolutely believe that.
I mean, I don't even know that part. I just know as a mother that would guilt trip me. And I'm thinking that Gypsy was the financial backer. Um, that she would probably Google stuff and be able to coach Gypsy of, and Gypsy would, I could just, I see myself of what I would do. And my mother would say, okay, what did I tell you to say? And I would sit there and I would practice it to my mom. She's like, no, that's not what I told you to say, or something like that. And I can see that happening between them on a much deeper level, but I can see that happening. But and I believe it just got to the point that it was just such second nature, like it was with me, that it's just what you did. And then she got to a point that she was done with it. And I don't know what made her. I can't even imagine, because there's got to be some, either it was the years of the mental conditioning. And I mean, you can call it abuse, you can call it conditioning, whatever you want to call it. But I believe it got to the point to where she knew she had to get out. Did she take her mom's life for a boy like everybody wants to scream? Probably a part of it, because she wanted to be with that boy. But I truly believe, with the guilt that my mother put me on, that part of her guilt could have either been like, what's her mom going to do when she's not there? Who is she without Gypsy? She would have been nothing. Or is, all right, the law's starting to come down on us, they're owned to us. I don't know. I don't know. I can't even answer that. I don't know which way it went. But it just makes me furious when the only thing that the mental part gets is a couple of sentences, when it's what her whole life was about.
Right.
And for someone that's supposed to be so knowledgeable and so smart and can make some really good points, to act like it's just not a big part of it. It's just like that Vita girl was asking about, she was trying to, or Veda, whatever her name is. I can't never, I never heard of her. And so I was trying to tell you today, how do you say her name? She was trying to say something about that she really did believe that Gypsy was abused. She was trying her best to say she really thought there was some abuse. Fancy just wasn't going to let her make that point. Fancy was going to turn it around that, well, I'll say, that her mother taught her to be a good liar and a good con artist, and then she was on to something else. And just
I
that sentence
can
alone.
answer their question about how she got the records. And I don't know if Ty's still here or not, because Ty can verify a lot of that too. Ty and Christy got those records, and they were given to her to help them understand and dig and tell the story. However, she doesn't have all of them, because Tice has some that was never given to her. So there is that. But they were never given by Gypsy. I don't know that Gypsy ever gave permission, in all honesty, because I do know that for a long time, when we first ended that business relationship, Christy was still giving us information and still having April go and do the interviews and speak out and do all of that. And when that kind of got busted and Katie Joy screwed that shit up and caused more problems, everything blew up, and that was when things ended. But when Ron and Gypsy found out that Christy was still working with April, the shit hit the fan.
I can't see the chat, so just shut me up if there's questions, because I'll try to be as honest as I can. Or
I've been putting them up I've been trying to put them up there when there's questions.
I don't have my glasses; I can't see them.
Delilah says, so who's actually in JR's corner? Anyone? And I said, I didn't say. I'm going to say now. Lord, I was fixing to. Y'all can tell I'm getting tired. I was for the longest time, Delilah. I was. I tried to be. Recent events have made that very hard.
What, with Gypsy? What now? What was the question?
Delilah says, so who's actually in Gypsy's corner? Anyone?
I'm in Gypsy's corner when it comes to the child Gypsy, and I know that sounds so stupid. When I look at Gypsy, I don't see what everyone else sees. And I'm in her corner as far as trying to, or I mean, I don't have a personal relationship with her, but hoping and praying that the child part can start to heal or start to even acknowledge it needs to heal. But this running amok that she's running, I think it's for attention, and I believe it's just a symptom of it. So I don't hold it against her what she's doing right now. I'm not out here saying, oh, look what she did to Ryan. I made a joke on one of my thing that Ryan better check the burner phones because we know how she is about the burner phone. I made that video. Because I just thought it was funny. It's like, we didn't know about them burner phones. But it's like I'm not out here even bashing her for what she's doing now, because I think right now it's that F you attitude, and it's kind of part of the process. Like I said, I don't believe it would matter if there was anybody in her corner. I just don't. I don't. I had some very strong women come into my life when I married my husband, who I just divorced in 2021. And his mother was amazing. His mother was great. His grandmother was better. Lord, at the homemade biscuits that woman could make. She put sour cream in her biscuits, by the way. Side note there. Instead of milk, use sour cream. They were very strong women and helped, even at that age, to mold me into the mother I become, because I am a damn good mother. And I will pat myself on the back for that, and I will do it all day long. I have two very successful kids that never got into anything, and I believe that they easily could have, because at one point in time I had dropped the ball and I wasn't seeing some certain things. I can't really explain this, but I wasn't seeing certain things that I needed to, because I had my blinders on, because I was one of those parents, my kids do no wrong. But that was during their early teen years, and I had a little bit of a reality check I had to face. But they grew up, and they're 32 now and 25, and they're both successful, and they've got good careers. I've got one grandson, and I don't think I would be who I am if some strong people didn't come into my life that knew nothing about who I was, because you live under that shadow. And that's why I don't believe, even if I don't know Christy's intentions. I know what people says. I don't know how she feels about Gypsy. Like I said, I know what people's told me. I've never talked to Christy enough to, and wouldn't know what to believe if I did talk to her. I just don't know. Like, it's one of those things I don't know enough about. I think anyone that knows Gypsy personally now is not the person that's going to be able to reach her. I think some strong women's going to have to come into her life that's going to guide her and teach her of what a woman is, because she's not going to want to hear nothing that anybody around her right now has got to say.
Right.
I just don't believe that she's capable of hearing, even if they had the best intentions, even if her dad has the best of intentions. I don't believe she's capable of hearing what he has to say enough to change anything about herself. Maybe the right people would come into her life, that is not to gain something from her, or to make a name off of her, or build a platform off of her, or get on TikTok and YouTube and blab everything about her. Maybe some real life person.
I could have, and I just wasn't comfortable with it. I've had several.
But you're still a connection to the past. You get
right.
what I'm saying?
Well, but I'm talking about build my channel off of her. I've had several of the big creators come and say, Brandy, you should have been doing this a long time ago. Why aren't you talking about her? You could bust your channel wide open. It's not about that. For me, it felt like making her my cash cow. And I felt like she was already abused bad enough by social media and technically social media, those of us here have created the monster we have right now. And I didn't want to add to that. Just didn't want to. I started to. I started to talk about. I wanted to talk about the story, but I also discovered people didn't want to talk about the psychological aspect, and I wasn't interested in the dramatics.
Right. Well, here's the thing: is I come into this in December, and I don't even know the details of the case. I know I've watched all the fancy stuff. I know everything Fancy has to say. I've watched some other podcasters, but I wasn't involved when the story was being broke down. Right. So I know what people said, but I'd love to have a live that's unbiased, that's not a gypsy bashing or a gypsy love fest. That's just the facts of the case without opinions being dragged to good or bad. And just like, because there's just certain things that I never got answers to because there's this battle between creators and the good and the bad. And she's evil. She's a queen. No, she's evil. Oh, no, she's our queen. Like, where's the middle and the truth?
Right.
But all right, let me read this last one, which is the very long one.
Oh boy.
I called Brandy and I'm like, "Are you busy? I gotta read this to you what someone just sent me." Like, it's not a book, it's like a series. All on TikTok, y'all. I mean, like, it just kept going and going and going. Okay. I'm gonna try not to lose my place in it. Let me get a drink. Oh,
well, that didn't sound good.
I have a backup. Lay down, Johnny. Okay, it says Kendal. Y'all gonna love this one. They come to chew me out. Okay. It says, Kendal, I originally looked you up on TikTok to tell you a thing or two because I thought you were wrong. When I first read that sentence, I'm like, oh, I was waiting on this one. I felt you were wrong for going real life on Colleen after watching Fancy, Sarah, and what'd you say it was? Veda? What is it? Veda?
Veda.
Sarah and Veda's interview. I felt it was just mean girl behavior and your actions could really damage her career and affect her life drastically. But before doing so, I wanted to see who you were. What cold-hearted person could have behaved like this? I watched your videos. First, let me say, I'm sorry you had to live through a childhood with a mother fighting addiction. I hope you have found time and started to heal and understand that she was a sick woman. Addiction is evil. I too can relate to an abusive parent, but in a much different way. I guess I never realized or thought about the gravity that grooming a child had on other aspects of their life. When I hear the word grooming, I think of a predator gaining trust to gain access to his or her victim for sexual desires. After hearing some of the examples that you gave of parental grooming, you stopped me in my tracks. Basically, she groomed you to commit medical fraud and other illegal activities. I had to stop and say to myself, what if? What if the part Fancy and her team, and she's got in parentheses, which includes Colleen, deems minimal, barely worth a sentence, was by far as big as of this diagnosis as the chromosome deletion itself. I've always supported Fancy. And even though she's a little out there, I can relate to her. However, I believe she's only as smart as the people around her. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but I think she will stand strong on what she thinks is fact until someone brings her something better and more interesting, and then she will run with that explanation of that crime as if it was hers. This has happened many times and has changed so much over the years, and each time she's not capable of considering the possibility that maybe she's wrong. I've seen this happen so many times. Colleen is highly educated and very articulate. This time, I even believed they had found the missing piece to this case. We all know something's missing. I still believe the chromosome disorder is accurate because Colleen breaks it down very well. That even a layperson could see how all the markers lined up. After Fancy and Colleen's explanation of this disorder and giving us the medical proof on Facebook, which I didn't know that they had posted on Facebook too, I felt like finally we had been given 90% of the truth, and the other parts that were missing is the truth that one day will come from Nicholas. After all these pieces finally come together, I believed Fancy was a spoiled little girl that when she didn't get what she wanted and didn't get the man she wanted that she thought she loved, she devised a plan. I believed 100% of that Gypsy never experienced abuse a day in her life because the medical diagnosis that Colleen put out there proved it was all medically necessary and no abuse ever happened, and she just loved the attention and the reward she gained by being a sick child. I felt Gypsy could have saved herself very early on if the abuse was so bad. Now I'm not so sure. I understand Fancy has a deep hate for the family, but I believed she presented a proper argument. I sit here today wondering, after listening to you and the weight that the parental grooming had on your life, and obviously still today is painful and hard to speak through, I wonder if we all just forgot that there might still be more to the story, or maybe a part of the story that some don't find
Joby.
as important. Huh?
Joby. Sorry, I was calling the dog.
That some don't find as important, but in actuality is just as important. Will this case ever end? I ask you, will this case ever end? I do believe a registered nurse should have understood or at least considered that parental grooming or maybe Stockholm syndrome that Fancy just, or that, that Brandy spoke of earlier. I read this to Brandy earlier too, by the way. Maybe even Stockholm syndrome could have been as important to this case as the chromosome deletion disorder itself. Both can be true, right? And both can hold the same amount of reasons of why Gypsy lived through and who she become today. Now, I don't know where I stand with this situation. I really don't know where I stand at this point. I wish maybe you and Colleen could have spoken to each other without the input and the anger that Fancy places on anyone that tries to suggest that maybe she just maybe don't have all the answers. Excuse me. I do agree that Colleen carries a bigger responsibility as the medical expert in this case than any of the other team members. I feel a little let down at myself that I never considered the possibility that grooming by a parent can have lifelong consequences, especially in this case. I gave it such a small thought and convinced myself that at any time Gypsy could have stood up, told a doctor, any doctor, the truth, and her life would have been much different. I read the text messages that you posted, and I can't believe how Fancy speaks to people. Sometimes I guess it's always been in my face. I've seen it, but supporting the other side for me was never an option. So therefore, I supported Fancy. I guess it's always been in my face, but supporting the okay. I still think that Gypsy is a danger to society and our young people. Again, I'm sorry I come here to question you on your mean girl mentality, because what I found was a brave, honest girl with a sincere need to open the eyes that this story is still not complete. I do wish you would consider calling off the nursing board because I think Colleen's words gets entangled in Fancy's head. Please ask yourself, are you doing this because you believe Colleen is part of the problem or because you believe that she created the problem? I personally believe that Colleen is right about the chromosome deletion. So do I. And Fancy took that explanation and made it fit in this perfect present that she presented to the world. It was the bow on the box to seal Gypsy's fate as the complete monster. Gypsy today is an irresponsible woman still seeking the attention from her onlookers. Fancy needed the world to hate Gypsy and the Blanchards as much as she did. As a murderer, the world is never going to think much of her. She would have just been another name we recognized as a hard criminal, but I believe Fancy needed the world to hate her. Obviously, even today, she continues to post about her as if the world is hanging on her every word to inform them of Gypsy's every move, while people praise her for bringing the truth. I don't think Fancy is capable of even considering that Gypsy experienced real abuse, and that the abuse created the woman we still see today running amok. There should be behind bars or an intense therapy. I will close with this. Will you please consider having a one on one conversation with Colleen and give her a firsthand perspective of your story, which is a big piece of the puzzle they are failing to admit in Gypsy's story? If she is any nurse at all, she will have compassion and should be able to see past Fancy's need for Fancy's need to be right and for Fancy's need for hate and to tell a real clear story. Maybe she will study that part parental grooming played and present us with the full story and stop letting Fancy put it in a little box and present it as the receipt for hate. Again, I apologize for assuming your actions were done out of a menacing place. I guess I'm as guilty as everyone else and just wanted Gypsy to be the monster and had never been the victim. Fancy and Colleen explanation gave me the right to feel that way, to feel the way I did. And though I think Gypsy is a vile woman today, the story of how she became who she is must be told truthfully. I believe that many factors created her, and one without the other is incomplete. And she signed her name. And a beep.
And beep beep. So I typed it. I haven't seen any responses yet, and I said, "What do y'all think? Should she have that conversation?" I've given her my advice on that, but I'm curious to see if people think you should talk to Colleen privately. Hello, Journey. And Journey says, "Thank you for sharing your story, Kendall. Much love to you. I had to stop watching Fancy months ago because she gave me migraines, and I don't get them. I don't even get them." I feel that, Journey. I feel that. Well, here's what I said. I think she needs to think about it, and I think it needs to be done with somebody else with her to prove what's said and what isn't said.
I don't even know. Like, my goal with the board
here's
was
what I know about Colleen. Colleen is going to run to Fancy and say, "This is what they said. They were so mean. And is this true? Is this real?" And she's going to believe everything that fucking Fancy says.
yeah, I don't think I agree, Mom. I don't think anything could be a private conversation because one thing I would never do is I would never be hateful to Colleen about it, because what I wanted Colleen to understand is the pain that she's overlooking, and I don't think I don't think I can stop what's going to happen is going to happen. I hope and I pray, I really do, and I know Fancy Nim's not going to believe this, but I really do. I hope all it is a conversation or a warning. I don't want the woman to lose her license. That's her. She got babies at home. That's why I really fought with the ideal of even doing it. But it was just like, I just wouldn't stop. And like, you hold a responsibility that Fancy don't hold in your hands. And it just so anyway, I don't want her to lose her license. I don't even want her to get her strike again, her license. I just want a wake-up call, which is when I sent the original letter that I still never sent proof of it. And I had all the videos. I had everything of where she was saying what she was saying and where she was disrespecting her. And just, it was always funny to me that every time Colleen was supposed to be on or she was going to do, there was always technical problems or she couldn't be here tonight. I think Colleen's smart enough to know to not say it's too much. But
Tori and I spent over an hour, probably almost 2 hours on the phone with her, pleading with her to think before she lost everything. Think about it, guys. She's in trouble with her license, and Fancy's getting computers.
And I do believe that, let's say the worst happens. And I don't think Colleen's going to lose anything. I don't think she's going to lose her license. I don't think it's to that degree to take someone's years and years of something away. Obviously, I'm thinking it's her first strike. I mean, at the worst, a strike, right? Or a warning. But let's say the worst did happen. how does it hurt Fancy? Don't hurt Fancy.
Don't hurt her at all. She's gaining from it.
It would just be more content for her to throw up and start attacking people because they hurt her friend. And look what Kendal caused. And as she says, the hellfire would rain down on me. But it's not going to benefit Colleen. The smartest thing she could have done for Colleen when Colleen got that letter is, the smartest thing Colleen could have done was answered it back truthfully and in her own words and her side of it, and it never said anything. But of course, as she always does, as weaker people do, they need a mouth or they need someone to back them up. She sends it to Fancy, and then Fancy wants to make content. She wants to prove her point. And all that did was tell me what I had no choice but to do. And
because at that point, when she messaged me and called me all the lovely names that she did, you hadn't done anything other than your initial complaints. You hadn't given them the proof.
No, I hadn't. I had no intentions to. The proof was asked for on April the 4th.
Yeah.
She didn't get as far as I know, she didn't get it until I was alerted. I think it was the 15th. And I had from the 4th to the 15th and never did anything, never intended to, because all I wanted the letter to be was a wake-up call to Colleen that, hey, we're not kidding. You hold a responsibility and you're not doing it. Whether it's unethical, or against the law or whatever, you hold a different responsibility than a YouTube yapper.
Delilah, according to April, she's under investigation, I think was the terms.
You tell me somebody said that she was suspended.
Somebody else told me that they had seen that they said she was suspended. Now I haven't heard that, so I don't know.
I got verification that she's under investigation. The board sent me verification that they did open up the investigation. It could have went one of two ways. It could have went that they read my letter and just dropped it. They didn't see enough there to investigate. That was the first choice they gave me, or not choice, but two things that could happen. And the second one was they read it and decide that they will open up the investigation. And then I got notification that they did decide to open up the investigation, which I didn't even want that part. I was hoping that she would just realize we're not playing. You've got to stay professional and not let the hate and Fancy do what they're doing. But I said, now I don't even know if I could stop it because Fancy tried to tell me that she's going to send the authorities to me. And then by the time we got done with that text, she said she had contacted the authorities. And every time she mentioned attorney to anybody, we just all get such a laugh. But so to make sure, I was willing to talk to them. And I begged her that night on the text, like, please. I was on my way to Texas. And I was like, give me their numbers. I will call them right now. I don't have a problem calling them right now because this was not about Fancy. And I had everything that I had lined up and why I said what I said and why I felt the way I did. And I would show them the conversations that I had with other professionals. And I didn't give those professionals any names. I gave them, what if someone did this and they did this and they did this and they said this and, how do you feel about this? What would you think? And I didn't give names. I didn't give Gypsy's medical records. I wasn't doing that. I'm not going to do the same thing that I'm mad at someone else for doing. So I don't want nothing to happen to her. I really don't. I just so don't. But she wasn't listening. And there was people that tried to warn her.
And your point of view from this stems from everything you went through.
Yeah, this was very personal to me. This was not vindictive. This wasn't even about Fancy. This wasn't even about Gypsy.
This actually started before you and I had even become friends, technically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This was just, it's like you can't leave that part out and just act like it's nothing. I mean, like I said, you take a serial killer. What makes them a serial killer? Gypsy was not born evil.
Right.
And I seen a picture that someone sent me the other day that I had asked for. And you got this little girl sitting in this wheelchair. Her head really short and shaved off and big old thick glasses and just looking pitiful. Pitiful. And now we know that her hair never had to be shaved.
Mm-hmm.
We know there wasn't no cancer making her hair fall out or anything. She could have had pretty long hair. And rather she needed to, I've heard different stories on the glasses that they didn't even want to do surgery. They wanted to not to do surgery, but Dee Dee went ahead and made them do surgery. That come out of Colleen's mouth herself. So I don't even know the story with the glasses. But strange to me, she had glasses on then, but she don't now. Maybe it was the surgeries that helped her why she doesn't need them now. I don't know. But you got this little girl in this pitiful little dress with a shaved head and sitting outside in the sun in the wheelchair. What kid would not have been running around the yard and catching bugs or chasing the dogs or just...
Well, here's something on that. Here's what I don't think has been said anymore, because I don't go listen to everything that's said. I hear what's been sent to me. So I don't even know if April and them are even sharing this anymore. When Gypsy was little and in the wheelchair, she would be hanging out with her cousins and they would be playing, whether it was like jumping on the bed or playing on the trampoline or whatever. And if her mom wasn't there, she would go and play and jump and be silly and be playing with all the kids. And as soon as her mama walked in, it was like a little wet noodle. Whoop, she'd fall to the floor. And her mama would put her in that chair and they would leave and she would be pissed. So...
And I can so relate to that.
That right there should tell you there was some abuse going on, because if she wasn't being abused, she wouldn't have like dropped and knew that she was in deep shit as soon as her mama got there and saw that she wasn't in the wheelchair.
When the people that hate Gypsy sees the snow episode where she jumps off the porch and she grabs her legs and pulls them around, when you're in the mind of hate and all you want to see is scamming people, you see a girl that obviously can use her legs and that she's faking bringing her legs around and she's in on it. I see a girl that wanted to play in the snow, but knew she had to go along with what her mom said. Mm-hmm. And then her mom's like, now remember, you can't use your legs. You got to pull them around. And that she has to even out in the snow. Instead of doing what a little girl would do. I remember when it would snow at my house and, I didn't have gloves because we lived in the South where you don't have gloves in the South most of the time. And I'd put socks, like double and triple socks, and we get that occasional snow in the South and go out and there wouldn't be even enough snow to build a snowman. So you have to rake it off the top of the car, like the hood of the car, and build a little snowman. So here she is still pretending to keep mom happy because mom's going to video it. So it's got to look real good and jump off. And she raises her hand and screams something. And all people can see is look at her going along with it. No. The grooming part is she had no choice. Mom told her what she needed to do, or she automatically, it was already groomed enough that she knew what she had to do. She had to pull those legs around like she couldn't use them because we all know she could have. So she acted like she couldn't because she knew that's what she had to do.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody can look at it any other way except look at her already. Right there proves. That right there proves. What does it prove? Because you've not heard what that proves. You haven't heard what that proves. You've just heard that it proves she's a scammer. Yeah. Yeah. It proves part of that. But why? And what happens if she had jumped off that porch and took off running? Maybe her mother wouldn't have beat her. Maybe her mother wouldn't have tied her up, but maybe her mother would have gave her the silent treatment, or her mother would have acted like she broke her heart, which is the worst thing my mother would do to me is I let her down. If I let her down, that was beat me. Don't let me think I've let you down, or it's my fault that you're hurting or that you're sick. I can't answer for what happened when it led up to that she took her mom's life. I can't even start to comprehend why that went that way. I can't. I never thought about taking my mom's life, but I feel like I had 30% of what Gypsy went through. And I don't care how anyone wants to twist it. And I don't want anyone to say, oh, I lived through abuse either, unless you lived through that type of grooming abuse. Then I'm not saying that someone else's, whether it's sexual abuse or narcissistic parents or anything like that, that their abuse was any worse or any less, but it was a different type of abuse. And you cannot understand this unless you lived it, or you have someone that's educated on how to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yep. Words are so powerful. And when you hold that title behind your name, you are responsible even more. And you've got to respect the power that you hold, because there's so many people. It's like I can't watch Fancy anymore. And I watched that one with the Veda girl. It's just because I was brought up, and there's so much lying out of Fancy, and that girl was like, I'm just asking you because I want to know the truth. And like, you went to her for the truth. And but anyways, beside the point. So it was like the words that are said and how much power they hold, and that the Colleen's words made those people in the chat, they were being like, thank you for Fancy for being the one to bring the truth. Fancy, I'm so proud of you today for sticking to the truth. And like, what? Do you just want to believe that? Or do you believe that? Or are you just so closed-minded that you can't think that maybe she is telling the truth, but maybe there's more to it? I'm not saying she's lying about it, but it's not the story. It's not the story. It's not the little present, as that one girl says, the little present that you present it to the world with the receipt or the bow on it of hate, because you want the world to hate her. And here's the present you're giving the world. I've had people come in my comments on videos I've posted and ready to bawl down, drag down, fight that. And this was not me even supporting Gypsy. It was me just saying something that because I don't hate Gypsy, that they would say, but she was never medically or physically abused. So everything you're saying it doesn't matter because there was no abuse. That come from Fancy. Fancy's got these people believing there's a little bit.
None of us were in that home. We do not know what happened.
When you can sit for 4 hours and 41 minutes, and the only thing that mental abuse gets out of 4 hours and 41 minutes is a sentence or 2 sentences, and on to the next thing. But you can talk about all this other stuff and answer, and it only gets 2 sentences out of almost a 5-hour live of you telling the story and you answering the hard questions.
Yep. I like what she said. She's like, they are abusing her in retrospect by taking the kid out of the equation and eliminate all of the other factors.
Perfect. Who said that?
Mariska.
Perfection. There is a broken child behind those eyes. And Gypsy don't even realize that child is still there. That's how I see it. Gypsy don't even realize that she's a broken child inside. We can't fix it. Got to fix herself. She's got to work. She's got to even realize it. She's got to acknowledge it.
Yep. Alrighty, guys. I think I need to call it at night. I have got to go make this silly freaking cheese ball. I'm making a hedgehog-shaped cheese ball for the baby shower.
When is the baby shower?
Tomorrow. I have to be there at noon.
So I think I'm supposed to talk. I forget her name, but she's wanting us to do a live with her.
Jojo?
Is that her? Joanne?
Yeah,
Jojo.
Jojo. Yeah.
Jojo. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to make some notes so I'm a little bit more organized than you're
Yep.
my home channel. I feel like I can relax over here.
I told her that I think that it would be good for them to come up with questions for me.
Hmm.
And if she can kind of give me a heads up, I can give her proof of what I have on whatever I can answer on those questions. She's like, well,
Okay.
you don't have to answer everything. I said, I'll answer all of it because I'm not hiding shit.
Yeah, it's time you stop taking a back step because you don't want to ruffle other people's feathers. You're being accused of it anyway.
I'm being
This,
accused of all of it. So
yeah.
guess what? I'm being accused of being behind all the drama by Fancy and by Jasmine. Well, guess what? I'm fixing to bring all of the fucking shit out.
Thanks, Delilah.
Including voice messages of Jasmine talking mad shit about Fancy. And now she's over there being buddy buddies with her.
To what? Oh, Jasmine.
Yeah.
I ain't touched that. I mean, I know it affects you because it's personal with you. To me, I just think it's a bunch of hot air and joke. But I realize that it's personal to you.
Yeah, it's become personal.
Yeah.
When
To
you
me, it's
pretend to be
just
somebody's
I don't
friend
care.
and then use that against them, yeah, no. That's personal.
Thanks, guys. Okay, Michelle.
I appreciate every one of y'all for your support tonight and letting Kendal get all of this out. It was really hard. She's been a nervous wreck.
Yeah, I texted her right before the live. I was like, I just want to throw up.
Delilah likes when I'm sassy.
I'm going to try to keep her a little calm.
And AK says, good night, everyone. Thank you for the chat. I appreciate all the points of view, too. Anyways, I hope everybody gets out and enjoys the beautiful spring weather. Big hugs all the way from Alaska.
Hopefully I'll be in Alaska by January.
It wasn't supposed to rain until Sunday, and it rained a while ago. Like, I don't know where the hell that come from, but it rained.
Mama Dukes, I will talk to you in the morning, love. I need to talk to you. I didn't have my Mama Duke dose today. And that's something else. Because I love her so much, people would be so surprised at what our conversations are. Because you know what our conversations are more than anything? Our animals.
Same. We talk farm life constantly, or whatever antics the Big Daddies are up to.
Oh, I know. I love Big Daddy. He put up with me for 4 hours.
We very seldom ever talk about any of this ever.
Like, she doesn't tell me horror stories, and Lord, I know she could. I guess maybe it's because she knows I know the players, but I don't know the history. But she's just so good to me.
See, me and Mama Dukes have the history. Her and
right, I understand.
She was there before me, but it's all of these players. I mean, it gets personal for us, and so we have to be very careful because her and I are both focused on our peace, and so none of this brings peace at all.
Right, and like y'all both know, this is not even what I wanted. This is not. I wanted to be done with this. My passion is the troubled teen industry. There's a real change to be made there, and we're making a change.
Some good progress. This is right here. This is what Mama Dukes and I talk about: farming and Big Daddies. That's it. We're like,
me and her talk about a lot of the health stuff because we have the heart problems together.
Yes.
We talk about a lot of health, but most of ours is animals and just shooting the shit. I don't care about all that.
Big Daddy sending us hugs. Love you, Big Daddy.
Bless his heart.
He's a character now. He's a character. And I told JoJo this today. I said, I have worked very hard since 2022 for my mental health. And when you're in a spot, like some of y'all may not know, I couldn't walk. For more than like a couple minutes. Like I could kind of get around, but I had to have a walker and where I could sit immediately because my back would seize up. I had to get a shower chair because I couldn't get in and out of the tub. I couldn't stand in the shower. I mean, my mental health took such a toll. Grocery store was a nightmare. If I even went and picked up groceries, getting them into the house, sometimes I just driving to the store and getting back, I would be in so much pain. Not even getting out, just going to pick the groceries up. I couldn't handle the car ride. My back was just so bad, and I tried to take my own life. And that kind of accidentally. It was just I just wanted pain to stop.
Yeah.
And, it was a bad situation, and it woke me up. And I'm like, I have to fix myself. This has to quit. And we spent so much money on doctors trying to figure it out. And we had a freaking scam artist doctor that took us for thousands, and then went to the clinic. The doctor's office, the orthopedic hospital now, and they figured it out immediately. And after that, my point of view changed on a lot of things. That's even why I even reached out to her when Christina died, because I had empathy and compassion, because life was different for me.
Yeah.
And now I hold that very dear. My peace and my happiness and my circle is very important. And I don't like things coming in and fucking that up.
Mm-hmm.
And even
and I was accepted into the circle. I feel so privileged.
And I'm very cautious. And I even told Joe that today when her and I were messaging on TikTok. I'm like, look, I'm cautious, and I'm not gonna just jump in just because I have to.
And this isn't to make things worse.
Right.
And yes, I don't want anything that's going to make things worse.
And April wants to silence me. She's never wanted me speaking. And
well, honey, you told me some stuff today. And I ain't gonna say it, but
Mama Dukes, I shared the stuffs with her today, and I thought she knew.
And I was like, April Johns? And I'm like, no, you're kidding. What?
She didn't know. I was dying. I laughed so hard because I thought she knew, and she didn't know.
No, I didn't know. I thought it was
took her back a little bit. Oh my Lord, I'm gonna cry laughing now. But
I'm still like, what? You're pulling one, right?
I had to even think about if I wanted to go any further with discussing any of this about April. She has accused me and Tori of stealing the company and corporate espionage, I guess, is what we're at this point. Well, fucking send them to my door. You know what? Tori and I have shown the proof, and we will continue to show the proof of exactly what happened, when it happened, how it happened, and where. And it's kind of hard to steal a company when one company's running and the other's running at the same time. That's not stealing a company. Sorry. I mean, did she steal Netflix? Because I mean, it's a streaming network with stuff on it, kind of like Netflix and Hulu and Peacock and Paramount, and I don't know. I mean, I guess she stole the idea from them too. So she's not the only one that's got the idea. We didn't steal her contracts. My content creator contract was totally different than April's. Thank God. And Tori knew I was a stickler on that. It better not be nothing even close. And it's just stupid. It's stupid to constantly have to defend a fucking business. Somebody that can't run a fucking business, that keeps having them shut down. You know what I mean?
And that's another place where I feel so bad for Colleen. And I know me and you talked about this earlier, that I have sympathy where you've got a personal little, you're different than I am with her, because I know I'm the one that done this, and it seems weird for me to say that I'm the one that kind of feels bad for her, but I know she's put in all this money, and she's putting in so much, and probably a lot of her time and her money, and it seems like her heart, and all Fancy uses her for is her name.
Mm-hmm.
Mariska, mine is Kendal Grant 000 on YouTube, and Kendal Grant on TikTok. I use my name. They want to go after me, they can. Oh my God.
I'm checking. I do have Instagram. I have True Crime Uncorked and Redneck Wine Diva, and I don't remember what the other one is. And then my My TikTok,
Journey, yes.
my TikTok is this. Uncork with Brandy. Yes, Journey. I've been working on that for a very long time.
She said it was healing for me to speak, and
Mm-hmm.
I had a moment. Well, it's just because it was my daddy, and
Well, and we're
my
learning
daddy
that
hung the moon to me.
we're learning that with the survivor stories, letting them tell their stories and listening to how bad all that was and how healing that is for them.
Yeah.
And that really is mine and Kendall's focus, guys. Is this Silence No More series, and then after that one, we're going into the wilderness camp one, and
We have some good court cases on the table
and we do
too,
have
but
some good court
our
cases.
our sole purpose is letting these kids speak, which they're not kids no more. They're 40-year-old people, but they're kid sides talking.
Yeah.
The adults talking for the kid in them. Again, broken kids that need to speak.
Yep.
In adult bodies.
So, but alrighty, guys, I'm gonna hop off of here, and y'all have a great weekend. I'm going to go enjoy this baby shower tomorrow. My grandbaby will be here in July, and I'm excited to see Waylon and her little belly tomorrow.
I'm so jealous. Took me 3 years to get Mason from Amber. Took me 3 years to beg for that baby, and now I've started with Chase.
Well,
come on.
Jason, my other one is 12, so I've had him a while, and so we're going to see how he adjusts to sharing us with the new baby, because he hasn't had to share us. He's he rules the world. He is all that in a bag of chips, and so he
Nothing like those grandbabies, I tell
you.
About them grandbabies.
That's where it's at, guys. That is absolutely where it's at. We get through raising them children, just knowing those tough times of the teenage years. It's worth it in a few years when they start having babies, because grandbabies are the cream of the crop.
Mm-hmm.
But already,
but
guys,
we're just wanting to get this out. Get what Brandy's got some things that she just needs to make peace with. And then whatever happens after she tells her truth, and then I tell mine, it happens. We're done. She can just get over there and scream. People can sit and scream all they want to. We're not responding.
I let her talk for a while, and then I usually address it, and then I move on and wait a while again, and then I have to address it again, because it's the same shit over and over and over again.
Well, I mean, like, one of those messages to me was, I supported her. And she was saying she basically supported her because people were mean, and she just, I guess, pitied her. And I think a lot of people over there is just pities. It's just a lot of it's pity. I don't want pity.
I don't want pity.
I think a lot of people do.
I want my channel to hold me accountable. I want people to say, Brandy, that might be a little much. And then,
that's why we're having to spread out the teen industry. We got to spread it out. We got to throw a murderer in there too every once in a while.
That's why we laughed about that last night, because I'm like, we got to.
Yes, Mama, we just need done. Let it go.
Kind of break up some of the Silence No More series, because it's a little heavy on people, and let's talk about a murderer.
I'm sure tonight wasn't easy for some people too. But it's been a pleasure. Hard, but been a pleasure.
I'm glad you got to share, and I
appreciate everybody that come out and supported us.
I hope that those that needed to hear it heard it, or come and listen. We always get good replays, so that's fine too. If y'all are here and you haven't, make sure you give it a thumbs up, guys. And join us back here on Thursday.
I love you, Mama.
She's my home skillet.
Thank you, Maggie, for being here. Thanks, Misty. I appreciate all of you, really. I do. Some of y'all I don't know personally, but I recognize your names. So I'm beginning to see who Brandy's little circle is.
and some of these that have been really supporting, and the members of the channel, and those that are always here, they're all fairly new. So that's been really nice, because now that I've moved out of the trauma community, thank God. I don't know. I dipped into that today to listen to some of the stuff going on. And I'm like, holy shit, it ain't got no better. It's just the same shit. And it's like, yeah, I'm going
It's
back
like
over
on
to my little.
replay.
Oh yeah, it's like the same players, and it's on repeat. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life, and I'm just going, yeah. Thank God I'm out of this. But so these are all new people, and I love it, and they've been so supportive and so
Yes,
welcoming,
Michelle.
amazing people.
She'll post it.
Oh, it'll be here, Michelle.
I appreciate it, guys, so much. I'm so exhausted. I've been a nervous wreck all day just because I just feel like unpacking this stuff all over again. Even though it's healing, it's like today I was trying to think, what was that Barbie I wanted? And then I was, oh, okay. I got to go Google which Barbie it is because I'm curious how old I was. Because I know it was a new Barbie and I want to know how old I was when that happened. So, but
I had all of them, and I remember I got the big. Do you remember the big RV that they had? That was
yeah.
and my parents. It was so funny because we lived in this little bitty trailer on our property. We were building our house, and it literally had a living room and a one bedroom, and the kitchen was in the bed. It was a nightmare. And so mom and daddy and my parents, both my parents were alcoholics, and so they're in there smoking them cigarettes. The house was full of cigarette smoke and drinking, and you hear them and they're cussing. And I remember waking up and looking down the hall to see what they were doing, and they were trying to put the stickers on that bus. And I can remember looking at that thing in the next morning and you can see them crooked here.
That reminds me of something else my mother did. And I know we're done, but that just reminded me is I remember getting a bike for Christmas one year. And my mother gave it to Billy again right after Christmas, gave my bike away. And we told my dad that it got stolen. And my dad went and got me another one.
Oh, no.
So she could get her medicine.
Oh, wow.
I just thought of that when you're saying that because I remember catching my dad putting it together on Christmas Eve. And it was under the tree Christmas morning. And
oh yeah, I remember that RV. My daddy wanted that. And anytime mom mentioned getting me things like that, you could see daddy give her that look like, seriously? My daddy was a carpenter, so he built stuff all the time, but he had these big old fat fingers. I mean, he wielded hammers all day long.
Mom, I agree with that. We should pick a night a week to just have the ladies in and just talk.
Yeah. Open panel, let people just come up and share whatever they want to talk about.
Is anybody into books? Because I'm really into books. I would love to start a book club. And like
I love books, but I have to have it on Audible. I don't have time to sit down and just read a book anymore. And
I do all my books on Audible.
I'm sitting down and just reading a book.
I have to be busy, but that would be so fun to start a series of books that's already out that you ain't got to wait 2 years for part 2 to come out.
So do you do fiction or do you do just true crime or?
I love true crime, but I really love the Game of Thrones series. I mean, I love that. Huh?
Have you done the Black Dagger Brotherhood series?
No, but my daughter's got it.
Oh my God. Love them. Love them. And she's developed it into a show, and I don't know when it's coming out. I'm on Facebook with them, so I've been watching it. Ugh.
I don't know. I just want to move from this drama. I want to do our teen thing. I'm
ready to. I'm going to do this one more time, and that's going to be over there on JoJo's. And
I just want to tie this up and be done with it. Whatever happens. If I'm just done.
Yeah, and then I'm moving on, and
same
over and back to my life and having fun.
I told Chase, I said I'm coming back to Texas in June. He said, why? I said, I'm going to Brandy's. He said, oh, you're coming back down? And I was like, yep. And he's like, are you flying down? I said, yeah, probably. And he said, all right, just let me know.
Yeah, I have Ren Fair coming up. Starts May 17th through June, the weekend of the 16th. And so every weekend, that's where I'll be. So our coverage may be a little thinner because I will probably be exhausted, especially halfway through. But my God, if depending on things are going, I'll do lives out there. I'll go live and let everybody see what's going on. And I don't know if y'all spoke about the person tonight. I am guessing yes, but is this Veda? Whatever her name is, bad news. I have never seen her before. She interviewed Fancy. I am talking to her a little bit. I am going to see what the whole deal is. She does want my side of things.
I never heard of her.
She comes from the Katie Joy community. So
she started following me on TikTok like immediately right after that.
And
I seen her name and thought, no, I'm not getting into any more drama with any more creators that's going to sit and take Fancy's word as truth with, the way she did. But maybe I judged too harshly because I blocked her quickly.
I think you were scared, and I get it. We're being cautious.
Very protective. I deleted 1,200 people. I don't care about a platform. I don't care about followers. I don't care about likes. I'll burn the countdown, start another one. I don't care about that kind of stuff. So I just want to keep the people around me that I like. And it scared me off. I could have judged too soon. So we'll see. I don't know where that's going to go. I guess it depends on kind of.
Mariska's stalking me. She got all my IGs.
Right, Michelle. I just don't want any more drama. I'm not saying she's good news, bad news, or anything. I don't know enough about her to have an opinion. I just know that when there's a creator that a lot of drama follows, I don't want to be involved.
I am willing to give my side of the story since she has the one side of it, because I do think that I'm owed that. I mean, if people are going to allow people to speak up about me, and especially if you're going to be the one that asked the question about me, I think I should have the right to speak my side.
Well, my problem was her comment about, I just wanted to know. So I'm going to ask the question so I can get the truth. What?
Yeah. So, I mean, and she's wanted to talk to me, and she's asked me a few different questions, today. And so I'm going to talk to her. My anti-Katie Joy people have all messaged me worried. Brandy, please be careful. And I understand that, and I appreciate that. I do appreciate that.
No, we're not taking no chances with anybody, but that don't mean we won't speak to them.
Nobody. Yeah. And I told JoJo that tonight. I am just so cautious. And I said, look, Kendal and I are both pretty protective right now.
Very. And I guess she probably realized that because when I texted her back and I said, I'm going to need Brandy with me. She said, I just got off the phone with her. I know, seriously, I didn't say that. I just told her that. I give her the quick 30-minute rundown version of my life in a nutshell with Fancy. And then she had some questions about some of the things. And so. And my only fear of going on a panel that's going to be 10,000 followers is I don't want to bring drama up on another creator that has not so far been in the drama and maybe don't realize how evil some people can be. And that was kind of my fear, is kind of being a little protective of an innocent person that maybe don't know quite exactly what they're getting into, but she doesn't seem to be a newbie. So
I warned Katie over down the rabbit hole at bedtime. I warned her when she messaged me and was getting involved in this. I said, be very careful. This case brings out the crazies, and it is the most intense, crazy situation you're ever going to find yourself in. And she's like, she said this on a live video that she did. She's like, she wasn't lying. She told me that straight up, and she wasn't kidding. And I told JoJo that. JoJo is, she was in here a while ago. She is a creator on TikTok, but I don't remember what the name is on her TikTok channel. It's
boutique, whatever, how you say it. Something, but I don't, she goes by something JoJo. Do you follow me on TikTok? Because I can pin her. I can do a video or do something where we make the date that we're going to go on her panel.
And I'll share it over here too.
Yeah. I was very suspicious, not really suspicious of her, like, again, protective of my piece, of Brandy's piece, Mama Duke's piece, anything that I know is going to come up with the people in my circle that I love that's involved in this. So I just went to see what she was all about. And she seems to be more about injustice, people that's just doing wrong. And she's very well aware that I reported Colleen, and a lot of people think that was wrong. But she didn't. She understood. So I didn't see much drama on her page. I didn't see anything that, so, oh, nope, not touching this. But I needed Brandy to kind of step in.
Yeah, Nicolette follows you. Oh, you're supposed to talk to her about time in the wilderness camp.
Who is she here?
Yeah, Nicolette, right here.
Oh, that's another one. Yeah, I will get with you. That's not Cindy. That's another girl that that I've talked to. This is, I forgot to even tell you about. Well, maybe I did tell you about. Yeah, she's another student. So, and we're supposed to talk about our time at wilderness camp too, which I'm probably going to do. Cindy later, because she's just not quite there yet, and I'm not going to push her.
That's okay. That's okay.
So yes, me and you will talk. I'll send you my phone number if I didn't already, and I'll send you my real number, not a text now number, like I do some people. I'll send you my real number, and we'll talk if you're good with that. I mean, I know you already said you were, so I just don't know. We'll set it up. We'll talk here in a minute if you want to, or set up a time.
Alrighty, guys. Well, I'm gonna hop off of here and go make this silly freaking cheese ball.
Yeah, I'm exhausted.
And y'all all have a good
ladies.
weekend. Hug your families and be safe.
Have you puppy dogs too, and your goats?
Yes, and chickens. My chickens they kind of protest the hugs. I'm just saying.
I love all of you. I really do. I don't know. Y'all have been such a blessing in my life.
I need to turn that down. That's really loud. Alrighty, guys. See y'all later.
Good night, y'all.